There you go. Hey. Sorry. Let's do that. Let's do that intro again. You're good morning, good morning, good morning. You are joining us for the Christian Anime Podcast. Glad to have you all on board. No. So I'm assuming what happened. So I just had OBS just had had an update, which means things break. Things break when OBS has an update. Welcome Ian. Welcome Fandom Girl Creations. Woman? Do we have a woman in chat? That sounds like a cool name for a YouTube channel, that's for sure. That's for sure. And it looks like it is a cool YouTube channel by the looks of it. All right, well, I guess the YouTube channel exists. Welcome Cushion Sap, welcome Looney. I hope you are all doing well. Where are you all yapping from? I'm assuming you have mostly Americans here today. Welcome, Brother Gregory. Glad to have you on. Glad to have you on. If you weren't aware, give me a second. I got a campaign for a second. Ooh, all right, we're on our way. We're on our way to greatness by the looks of it. All right, can we show Discord? Discord can't be shown. How do we do this then? That's the right one. See if that Discord can be shown. Hey, okay. I'm not doxing myself, am I? No. Okay. On the Discord, Waifu Wars is on. And I am currently campaigning for Hitori Goto, of course, and it looks like we're on the way to winning because we have based people, all of these very cool based people voting for Bocce. So if you are also a based person, go on the Discord, go vote, and go vote for Bocce. We've got 3 hours left on this. We're only like in the lead for we're only in the lead for in about 3 votes. So we are wanting for Bocce the Rock to win, Hitori Goto. And yeah, that's the small mini PSA. All right, cool. So with that very professional stream with starting, if you join the Discord, don't join the ICPA, join my party, the Republic Party, which is of course the current party in power. We are the ones who have created very cool. We have made the server very cool. Unlike the ICPA, which has not done anything because they're the opposition party. So there have been not many under our leadership, under the leadership of the Republic Party, there haven't been many problems. So don't join the ICPA. Join the based Podcast Sons Republic Party. With that, we're reacting to a video today. I looked it up, and more people live in California than Australia, so mostly Americans watching makes sense. For real. How nerdy of an anime fan are you? Do I like power scaling? Give us a second. Power scaling? Define power scaling for me. I'm semi-familiar with the term. Let's see. Power scaling refers to determining a character's power by comparing them to other characters in their series. Oh. I think it's really cringe when shonen anime do that. I think it's like it's okay in some anime. Like I think when I like the power scaling system in something like Fire Force, it actually made sense, and it was like I could accept that, right? I could say I could very much say, okay, cool. It's cool that there are some people in the younger. It actually made sense as well why the younger generations were more powerful than the older generations. But when you have it in like Jujutsu Kaisen, where it was like just so stupid, and it was like the fact that it was only the young people who are the strongest and all of the old people were like super weak. I think it was just, it matters not the power you have, but how you use it. Yes, that's true. That's true. But it was really cringe in Jujutsu Kaisen. I hate it when shonen anime are like, oh, all the old people, even the like all the old people are very very weak, and it's only the young people who can save us. I think it's just it's cringe. It's cringe. It doesn't make like it doesn't capture my it doesn't capture the it's something like the what is it? I'm trying to say a word. Suspension of disbelief, right? The suspension of disbelief isn't quite there in some of those anime. So that's my opinion on it. No campaigning in the chat. Oh my goodness. Are we seriously campaigning for our political parties? Um in other news though, the Fire Force video has been made, and I'm quite happy with it. I'm really chuffed with it. What else has come out on the channel? There's that Christian capitalism video, which I've done as well. Let's see. Let's see if we can bring it up. So yeah, two latest videos. I'm really this is one of my favorite thumbnails I've done in quite a while. And I like the style of this. So I might be changing the thumbnail style to, well, not to be super super dark, but I am this kind of style I'm still really happy with, but there are some things like the dark shadow behind it that makes it look a bit more 3D that I'll be reconsidering it. Fire Force video was good. You should have commented that. You should comment on that. That Trigon guy, it is day 38. It won't be a while. Ruslan is getting cooked. How are there so many Christians with dumb takes these days? I think it's because like there's always gonna be dumb people. Sorry, we shouldn't call them dumb. I think there's always gonna be like if like 200 years ago, if you had an opinion to say and you just started yapping out again and again and again, you didn't have like and if you didn't have institutional power, like your sole influence would be your local community or your family or like within your friends or within your workplace. That's all it is. When shall we get reaction to the Discord? Not in a bit. I think you just missed it, so there you go. You're not Adrax, don't be sorry about it. So that's why I think it's just like, because in the modern internet age, it's amazing. It's amazing that we are able to have a platform no matter what. It's cool. It's so cool that we actually have that we're able to, like, we don't need the approval of like some CEO or executive, or we don't need the approval of someone from a company who's been there for a while. We don't need the approval of someone's boss to be able to create stuff on YouTube. But we don't need the approval of like an editor, an editor in chief to say, "Yep, I'm gonna approve your sake." But I think at the same time, in the same way that we wouldn't need to have those checks and balances, that's why there's so many dumb takes online. It's because like there's no filter, right? That's what the internet has allowed us to do. So that's all it is. Popping in to say you low key like the God's Not Dead movie. I haven't watched it yet. So yeah, I really should. I saw the trailer for it. I think it was, I don't know. Like just from the trailer. Why don't we react to the trailer as well? Just to get a sense of it. And just from the trailer, I didn't think I would like it. God's Not Dead trailer. Would you ever do an argument for God tier list? Well, I think they're all good. So I wouldn't do something like that, like Redeem Zoomer. Maybe like, if you do some apologetic stuff, there's that podcast on Bocce or Makima. Bocce all the way. I know. Hey, look, Makima told me the other day that she did love me very much and she would never manipulate me. But you know what? I think comparing Bocce to Makima, Bocce told me though that she definitely loved me and she would never leave me alone. and she'd never leave me. Like that's the beautiful thing about Bocce, which is you can embrace her, you can hug her, and you can just cuddle up with her and snuggle up with her, and she's never gonna leave you. That's all it is. So there you go. Pull up the clip. I think the debate parts are the best parts for God's Not Dead, which is why I think, okay, this is the problem with God's Not Dead then, which is like that's why what I suspected, which is like it's meant to be a movie. You're When I watch a movie, I'm not watching a documentary. I'm watching a movie, so that's all it is. Before the internet was fully motivated and actually put a normal, nowadays 4chan really has influenced everything. It sent your comment twice? Ooh, spooky. And ironically, the only good parts of those movies, which is like if the only good parts of your movie is the debate part of it, or like anyone where you're providing information, then it's not a good movie. Yeah, the debate parts are from a real debate. Just watch the debate. One of my favorite Christian shows is Chosen, but I've seen mixed views on that as well. Yeah, I saw the Wretched Radio where maybe we'll I'm just gonna show you the video. We're not gonna react to it because we're already reacting to one thing. Wretched House of David. All right, cool. I've watched the House of David trailer. I thought it was really cool. So Wretched Radio made this comment on the House of David and The Chosen as well, and why they're bad, and we as Christians shouldn't be watching them. And I thought it was a cool point. So the main point, welcome Anime Kid. The main point that Todd Friel was making was that they were making too many embellishments and they were making too many additions to the stories in The Chosen and in the House of David. Like apparently in the House of David, they kind of implied that David was an illegitimate son, and also that David's mom was killed by a lion, which is nowhere found in the Bible. And I think of that and I'm like, yeah, that's really bad. They probably shouldn't do that. But at the same time, when the first time I read through the book of Samuel, when I first read through Kings, and all throughout Kings, and as I was reading it, I was like, you know what, this would make, like, I wish they had a movie adaptation of Samuel and Kings in particular as well. And I was like, I know you couldn't like really do it. Like I think that's the whole point of an adaptation, right? Which is like you shouldn't you should of course there are things to be added, which is why the primary text, which is the Bible, is always the one that you're supposed to be referring to in terms of building up your theology and those things. Two of those three producers of The Chosen are Mormon, which is unfortunate, right? Which is why I think, like, if we have a massive problem with The Chosen being produced by Mormons, that's all the more reason why actual Christians should be making the production of it. Like should be doing the production of The Chosen. So yeah. Yeah, the added stuff is frustrating. And it is the main problem with all like historical movies as well. This is my problem with, like, I love watching historical movies, right? But the problem with historical movies is that they add stuff to history as well. When I watch something like Chernobyl was really cool. As a history fan, as you watch it, you're like, hey, I love it. I as a really cool history boy, I loved watching like the process, like all of the it was a shame they weren't all speaking Russian, but yeah, it was a cool series, right? Because you actually saw how the Chernobyl power plant actually exploded, but they made they did some creative liberties with that. They didn't actually show they didn't actually show a lot of the things that happened. They created a character to represent all of the scientists, they created this female scientist to represent all of the scientists who were working with the main guy to stop the Chernobyl disaster. So there's all of these things which are. I didn't know that the Wikipedia co-founder is Christian now. That's really cool. I thought the studio was Mormon, but the writers were mixed and they didn't have influence. Yeah, no, I did see that. Angel Studios apparently isn't involved in it now. So yeah. There's an American TV show called Kings that's apparently loosely based on the biblical story of David. It got cancelled after 13 episodes, though. By mix, I mean the branches on Christianity. Oh, the mixed writers, as in multiple writers, yes. If you know your Bible, then this movie won't be a problem. If you don't know your Bible, then I'd recommend you not to watch. Media has the power to over people's minds. I do agree with that. Haptic, Mr. Cyber Haptic. That's why I'm kind of it's always something that I am this is you wouldn't have this discussion because you guys aren't like in university and you're not like in history units at university, but this was a discussion that's seriously done over like historical media as well. When we look at I'd hate to labor the point, something like Oppenheimer, right, as well. Oppenheimer has so many creative liberties in it as well. It's absolutely insane. So yeah, if Bible stories are going to be adapted, it should be short form content, because then you have to add things that weren't there. Yeah, I try not to take The Chosen seriously. I view it as fiction based on real Bible events. It's debatable if that's good or bad. Personally, it's just entertainment for me. I don't understand how a Christian having the belief that David's mother was eaten by lions actually has negative consequences. No, the consequence is that you're creating fiction. It's not. Let's not focus on the consequences because there are consequences. It's just I can't like properly articulate them. The consequence is that you have a picture in your mind of things happening in the Bible which didn't actually happen at all. So like that particular event, I think is actually cringe. If someone genuinely thinks, oh hey, David's mother was eaten by a lion, that makes so much sense why David I'm trying to think this through. So if you thought that David's mother was eaten by a lion, and then if a pastor genuinely believed that, I think there would be too many connections that they would be able to make with like, oh hey, this is like I'm gonna make the connection to like David being a shepherd and fighting off a lion, and that's why he being a shepherd fighting off a lion was so meaningful to him because his mother was eaten by a lion. So those are the sorts of things like if you're adding stuff to the Bible, if you're adding stuff in a TV show that's meant to be based on a Bible, then those are the sorts of things. Those are the sorts of problems that I can think of. So yeah, welcome lunatic. Hey, no, I'm pretty happy with my capitalism video. So if you have stuff to complain about it, then go complain in the comment section there. I had a friend watching a historical show and I looked up two characters she was talking about, but a lot of those things were made up about them. Yeah, it is unfortunate. So yeah, you're still waiting for the how the ghost stories dub explains predestination. You know what? I need to look at that. If the show makes it clear that it's not 100% accurate to the Bible, who does it affect? It affects non-Christians. If that's the thing for it. You're going to be Christian communist then? Well, that's cringe. Can we coin Christo-capitalism as an ideology? Where is it on the political compass? I don't know. It would be on a separate thing. So yeah, we need a history chat on the Discord. I don't think it's on there. Christian capitalism is cringer. No, it's like lunatic. You need to be aware there is a reason why capitalism has been the prevailing ideology for all of like capitalism has existed for the from beginning to end. Socialism doesn't actually make any sense. Like you're so tired and cooked, says Silly Salami Slapper. Welcome thanks for the $2 super chat. I am doing well, Salami. That's all about it. What about Christian fascism? Like this is what I mean, right? Which is like you're perfectly entitled to be a Christian communist or a Christian fascist because, like, to me, as long as you're Christian, as long as you take parts of those ideologies and adapt it to Christianity, it's fine by me. However, my personal opinion still is that capitalism. There's a reason why capitalism has existed since the dawn of time. Like the socialism itself as an ideology doesn't actually you can't have communally owned things because you're always going to need a state, which is definitely going to abuse its power. A state's always going to have to exist in order to enforce like collective ownership. So there you go. You'll forever hate capitalism. I can't change your mind. Hey, that's all it is. How about just Christian values in society? We don't need a Christian state. I wouldn't mind, like, again, like these are the sorts of things, right? Which is it's part of my ecumenism, which is I think it's we should be gracious. These are like secondary issues which we argue with in politics. I would be okay with a Christian state. Like that's all it is. So yeah, if capitalism is so poo poo lunatic, then why are you typing on a computer probably or type watching this on a phone that was only created as a result of capitalism. Capitalism is an ideology which has created a vast amount of wealth and prosperity for the majority of the world. When I think about this, the fact that in Victorian England, prior to the Industrial Revolution in Victorian England, I think it was like it's an insane statistic. Like, oh, I'll have to fact check myself on this, but it's like wait, I'll have to look this up now. Give me a second. I'm gonna get up the statistics, so I'm not gonna be wrong on it. Documents, university files, because I've written on this before. Is this what I'm looking for? Sorry about this, chat, but I do have to argue in favor of capitalism here. Yeah, here we go. So apparently, so prior to the Industrial Revolution, um, they're like children under the age of 5, around like 70% of children under the age of 5 were dying. Were That was the infant mortality rate prior to the Industrial Revolution. 70%, right? 70% of children died under the age of 5. The fact that that decreased after the Industrial Revolution as a result of the advancements in technology, as a result of the advancements of capitalism, that decreased to 30%. Right, the fact that you had 70% of children under the age of 5 like dying reduced to 30% as a result of capitalism and industrialization. I think it's an amazing thing. Like the fact in China, right? I think China has taken 100 million people out of poverty as a result of capitalism. You know why? Do you know why China abandoned socialism and communism as an economic ideology and has like this now that they've introduced like capitalism, like this mixed, they had to introduce like capitalist ideology in China. It's because like it was failing. The fact that China has the Chinese government has taken 100 million people out of poverty is only because of capitalism. It's not even 100 million people. How many people has China taken out of poverty? I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna say 100 million, but 800. Okay, it's 800 million people. The fact that they have taken 800 million people out of poverty. Can communism do that? No, it cannot. No, it cannot. It's only through capitalism. So there you go. My little niece would have died if it weren't for the healthcare we have today. That's true. What does communism and capitalism have to do with good or bad Christian movies? Sorry, we are getting sidetracked here. So no, it's okay. It's okay because we weren't like this is what I stream for. I stream for having discussions on chat with chat and having debates. So that's all it is. I don't even like Trump. I'm not even a Make America Great Again guy. Like um I'm way more libertarian compared to Trump anyway. And I think Trump is an insane person. He's actually an insane person. I don't actually like Trump very much. If not for his policies, if not for his like pro-Christian policies, if he wasn't like actually trying to court the Christian vote, then he wouldn't be a very nice person, and I wouldn't be supporting him, I guess. So yeah, there it is. All right, cool. Just give me a second, chat. I am gonna be right back. Okay, I know you're Starship Garage. Stop trying to make DeSantis a thing. I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know what will happen in 2028, but my bets are that JD Vance will take the GOP nomination. I don't think DeSantis will make it. So yeah, that's all it is. All right. But yeah, that's my Vivek. No, I don't think Vivek's gonna make it. Maybe like DeSantis vice president. That could be it. Welcome, anime and Catholicism. Very cool, very cool. Thank you for the $5 super chat, Salami. You're in DC right now with a bunch of liberals. You've been tempted to buy a MAGA hat, but you don't like Trump either. So yeah, that's all good. It's all good. Just make me supreme leader of the galaxy. Trust. Yeah. The only thing I must say is that I sent prayers to you, brother podcast son, because I know the Newcastle big boy lives over there, and they are the closest thing we have to demons on Earth. Newcastle big boy. I have not. I haven't actually heard of it. I'm very mixed about Trump. I don't think he's the worst, but he's not the best either. We shouldn't be worshiping, that's for sure. When I see like boomer evangelicals be like, "Oh, all hail Trump," that's like, oh, when I see boomer, like there's that meme of the boomer evangelical praying to Trump to save him, which is like, oh my goodness gracious me, such insane stuff. All right. Okay, let's react. Yeah, the title of the stream isn't politics, right? Where Christian movies suck. This guy has the solution, and we'll see what the solution is. What the solution he has is. I've just realized it's a 1 hour stream. It's a 1 hour video. I thought this was only gonna be 10 minutes. Okay, I guess we're gonna watch like the first bit of it. How far are we gonna go for it? Yes, I'm always lost in the chat, not reacting. Yes. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna aim for 10 minutes. We're gonna aim for 10 minutes today. I don't think we'll react to all of it. But we'll see if I agree for a 1 hour react video, 10 hours. This is gonna be a 10-hour stream. Goodness gracious me. All right. Okay, let's get to it. We'll have to start someday.
Let's face it, Christian movies have a reputation for being awful. There's no way around it. Secular and non-secular people alike have been poking fun at us because we suck at making good movies. There's been a massive misunderstanding within Christian media as to what art and film are.
Oh, that's right. No, wait. Let's give us a second. We were meant to react to the trailer to God's Not Dead. All right, let's. I was too distracted. Okay, I want to react to this because even just from a preliminary look at the trailer, you can see like some of the problems with Christian movies. One of the best Christian movies, actually, one of the only good Christian movies, I would say, is something like Jesus Revolution, because it's actually focused on a historical event. It's focused on what happened, and it's not super concerned with okay, the gospel is still in there somewhere, but it's not like it wasn't a lecture, it wasn't a preaching, it was a movie about a story. That's all it is. Yes, instead of becoming a vehicle for the Great Commission, it becomes a circle jerk. So yeah, that's why I absolutely adore Jesus Revolution, because it shows like some not the benefits of Christianity, but it's like the actual tangible consequences of like believing in this thing. So let's go. How many Jesus movies are there? Like in Young Sheldon. Also because it spotlights the beginnings of Christian rock as well. Yes, for real, for real. So yeah. All right. Let's have a reaction to this trailer first, and then we'll get to the actual video.
You prayed and believed your whole life, and here you are.
I feel like that's super, super quiet. Alright, can I boost that somehow? Okay, that's as much as I can boost it. Can I filter it? Gain. Oh no, I can gain it. It's so quiet.
Explain that to me.
Oh, there.
What do you say to people that are offended by
Wait. Let's remove that gain. I think this is okay now.
your show? Because you pray to Jesus in every episode.
If we disown him, he'll disown us.
When a 12-year-old watches his mother dying of cancer, a God who would allow that is not worth believing in. Life is really a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury and signifying.
Sorry. I just gotta. I didn't at all like comprehend any of that. So sorry. I'm gonna pay attention closer, and I'm not gonna get distracted by chat this time, because I just didn't understand any of it. We're gonna redo that.
You pray.
Wait, let's subtitle that. Should be English auto-generated.
Prayed and believed your whole life, and here you are. Explain that to me.
What do you say to people that are offended by your show? Because you pray to Jesus in every episode.
If we disown him, he'll disown us.
That's so corny, right? Okay. That's a bit corny. That's a bit corny. So, woman with a... I thought this was a gun for a second. No, it's a interview person. And they're interviewing like these... Oh, look at these very, very, very hateful Christians. Look how hateful they are because they have the American flag on them. And there's this grandma here who's like... she still has faith, even though she's super, super old. All right, cool.
When a 12-year-old watches his mother dying of cancer, a God who would allow that is not worth believing in. Life.
And then it's the problem of evil being suggested here.
Is really a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury and signifying nothing.
Signifying nothing? Oh, that's a bit cringe. Like, it's like the usual problem of evil stuff that atheists yap on about.
Name? Wheaton, Josh Wheaton. Philosophy 150. You might want to think about a different instructor. Come on, man, it can't be that bad. Think Roman Colosseum, people cheering for your death.
I am Professor...
That's like... So again, look, this is what I mean, right? This is what I mean, chat. These are some of the problems, right? Which are like, oh, hey, you're about to go you better be worried, because this is gonna be like a Roman Colosseum. You going into university is just like a Roman Colosseum.
Professor Radisson. This is Philosophy 150. I would like to bypass senseless debate altogether and jump to the conclusion, which every sophomore is already aware of: there is no God. All that I require from each of you is that you fill in the papers I've just given you with 3 little words: God is dead.
This is somehow worse than your vids. Shut up. You know what? That's a timeout for 50 years right there, Salami. Also, this never happened. I'm sure it's happened to some people. Okay, even when I've gone to university. You know what? University is actually not that anti-religion. I mean, there are some like really cringe people when you talk to them. But this is what I mean, right? Which is like, you gotta You gotta yap. You gotta yap is all it is. As corny as you think, this has happened for sure. Yes, it has happened. But are we gonna make a whole movie about it? And are we gonna make a whole movie where the student is actually going to convince the teacher how it's gonna the tutor to change their mind, right? So yeah. I was attacked by teachers for being Christian many times. Ah, so it has happened. Cool. What did anime and Catholicism say? I think it's an okay movie, but the idea that if you follow Jesus, things will always work out miraculously, could actually be leading some new believers away from Christ. Yes, which is so like it's got like that word of faith, prosperity gospel kind of mooching off of it. So yeah, teachers aren't allowed to express their religious or atheist beliefs or politics in schools. I thought no, well, that's not always the case. So yeah, happened to me as well. Okay, so it has happened. It has happened IRL. It's just like, but to make a movie about this and to have the conclusion that if you are going to try convince them, like the fact that I hope there's apologetics in this. Right? I sure hope there's actual good apologetic arguments that they've articulated in this. But to have a movie, but to focus your movie on like, oh, it's this university student who goes to university, and then the evil professor, the evil atheist professor is oppressing the Christian. Like that's like, yeah. The admins do not get mad because they also hate us. The apologetic arguments were okay, but were wrapped up in a corny plot. Okay, cool. Not to mention all of the sequels. I've seen some of the sequels, and they're absolutely ridiculous as well. So there you go. The premise is that the kids had to disavow God or they would fail the class. That has never happened. I refuse to believe it. I saw the movie and I felt they took the wrong approach. I've debated diehard atheists before and met anti-Christians, and it happens IRL and seen it happen on videos all the time, but it looks like a simplified, unrealistic version of it. Like even with the atheist teachers I've had, like they're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to force you to say God is dead. So yeah, it's a movie, guy, and it's supposed to also be entertaining rather than corny. Story first. So yeah. The thing about it is there was this one character that was an ex-Muslim. I thought there was a movie about her. Yes. All right, let's continue watching. Oh, when your faith is tested.
Wheaton, is something wrong?
I can't do what you want. I'm a Christian.
If you cannot bring yourself to admit that God is dead, then you will need to defend the antithesis.
You're gonna need to defend yourself. Can you fight for what you believe? I mean, if this is like you should be pro apologetics and actually get into apologetics, then I can get behind that.
Think of Jesus as my friend.
You think Jesus is God?
I don't want to disappoint him.
So your acceptance of this challenge may be the only meaningful exposure to God and Jesus they'll ever have.
That's a bit corny, not gonna lie.
He's not dead. I don't want anyone to get talked out of believing in him just because his professor thinks they should.
Mr. Wheaton, are you ready?
We're going to put God on trial.
Do you think you're smarter than me, Wheaton? Do not try to humiliate.
Okay, that's never happened. That's definitely never happened before.
On trial.
This exact situation has never happened before. Say goodnight, Kevin. Explain Christian movies like this. The gospel is like a package. You want the package to be delivered in a vehicle that's reliable, sound, and safe, and not in a beat-up old bicycle. So true. Like he's being forced to debate the teacher in front of the class because he doesn't want to say God doesn't exist. I understand their point, but it's never happened this way. For real. So yeah. Really, if I'd be surprised. I'd genuinely be surprised if this has happened where like, because I don't think for my perception is Reddit atheists only stay online. They are only terminally online, and they don't actually exist outside of the online space. So yeah.
you think you're smarter than me, Wheaton, do not try to humiliate me in front of my students. In that classroom, there is a God. I'm him.
This experiment is over. You get to decide who the most important person in your life is. Me, Professor Radisson.
But I have to do this thing. Like it's something that God wants me to do. I can't just turn away from it.
You just want to ensnare them in your primitive superstition.
What I want.
Oh, he just called it a primitive superstition. Oh, that's so, and it's got like the epic music behind it as well.
It's for them to make their own choice. That's what God wants.
You have no idea how much I'm going to enjoy failing you.
Yeah, but who are you really looking to fail? Me or God?
I'm aware this part of the trailer has the God's Not Dead song, and I'm pretty sure that's copyrighted, so we're gonna stop it there. We're gonna stop it there. One of my professors was an atheist, but his was a direct dismissal of Christianity as a story about a girl who got knocked up and then covered up. Oof, sheesh. Whenever I hear that, that's like Reddit tier atheist stuff. That's not even fun. Like I can't believe someone would believe that. I remember hearing about a kid who was suspended / expelled from school because they refused to stomp on a picture of Jesus. Ooh, that's insane. If that's actually real, that's actually insane. I remember some kids trying to get in trouble for reading my Bible out loud, even though they told me to. I didn't know at the time that they were trying to. I thought they wanted to read the word. Okay, cool. Okay, so maybe this stuff this hasn't ever happened to me. So I think it's just the fact that I'm living in Australia, which is a bit more hostile to the gospel. The fact that the people here are way more open to Christianity. I think that's just been my experience, which I haven't actually met a proper Redditor atheist. So yeah, I feel bad for a lot of atheists because one told me there was no meaning to life or death once. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Well, our lives are all different, but not everything that happens could be adopted into cinema. The Mission is a good Christian movie. Try looking at that one. The Mission. Oh no, I've recently heard about this. Someone recommended that to me. So yeah. All right, cool. In the Philippines, where I live, people are still open in general. That's cool. My girlfriend goes to a Christian group at their university. That's very cool. I honestly get anxious whenever anything related to God or Christianity is mentioned when I'm around with my secular friends and pals. Don't be worried. So that's my advice. That's all it is. Like you'd be surprised. Most people I've met anyway, like we just yap. And they're pretty open. As long as like you have a good foundation in apologetics, or like you know most of the ways to defend the faith, as long as you're even you don't have to be super equipped, but if you have like just a good understanding of like some of the apologetic arguments, then you'll be able to yap. You couldn't defend the resurrection. Oof, it's unfortunate. That's why you don't debate. You have discussions. So yeah, I try not to get into debates because like I don't like preparing for them. It's very it's not very fun to do. So that's why I like having talks and discussions with people. You're just gonna lurk today. That's perfectly fine. Paleon's remnant. So yeah, when you preach to people, they blow their lids because I proved them wrong. That's unfortunate. Try not to make them angry. Eh? That's all it is. All right. I guess we're gonna look at the part of this. I genuinely thought this was a 10-minute video, but the fact that it's 1 hour 30 it's still insane to me. So I guess we're gonna have to power on through as much of this as possible. That's all it is. All right, let's go.
Let's face it, Christian movies have a reputation for being awful. There's no way around it. Secular and non-secular people alike have been poking fun at us because we suck at making good movies. There's been a massive misunderstanding within Christian media as to what art and film are, and we as Christian filmmakers and artists need to redefine what Christian...
Yep. I agree with all of that. I think it's just like, ultimately, it's like what's the purpose of a movie? The purpose of the movie is entertainment. So that's all it is. It's not meant to be a documentary. It's not meant to be like, this is the same problem with some of the some of the really left-wing some of the left-wing influences on like Marvel or Star Trek or Doctor Who, right? Which is like the reason why those franchises were ruined. It's because let's look at some of the new Marvel movies, right? Which is like there's so many grievances from like single middle-aged women who don't like men very much, and they push that onto the movie, which is, and it makes it very not fun, right? So that's all it is. I like to watch Cliff preaching videos because he has really good arguments. There's that. Low key though, I've seen a lot of Reddit atheists on Reddit talk about like the professor in this movie. I see. It's like they asked AI to make the average atheist, and they got that. Yeah, they forgot how to entertain. So that's the whole point of the movie, right? So
art even means. I'm going to be blunt with you today, so please don't mistake it for rudeness or trying to put people down. I've gotten a few comments about my frankness in a previous video, so I want to make it clear that I'm not criticizing my own brothers and sisters in Christ for the fun of it. It's embarrassing for me to acknowledge that we are made fun of and have such a bad reputation.
I want to see some of these replies. So obviously he's done a video on Passion on the Christ. Let's read some of these comments that he's talking about. Obviously you didn't see the Passion of the Christ dedicated to our Christian brothers and sisters and the people that are on the fence and people that should know that they're not going to heaven and they need a savior. I've seen it, and I think it's a great example of depicting Christian themes. The point I was making is we need to make more story-driven movies, not 60 minutes of preaching. That's what a sermon is for. For real. Like, I think the point of the movie, the fact that people, like, these are some of the boomerisms, right? Like, it's the same thing in, like, in the corporate world where they're like, oh, I think we can use the movie to advertise our product or to show how good our organization is, or we're gonna let's do a mini documentary. Like I've been in these situations before, right? Where it's like I've been asked on a school committee to create something, and we're not actually creating like something that's entertaining. We're creating something that's bland, boring, and very, very corporate is all it is. So yeah. Good Christian movies are either parables that promote good values and scenes, or they're testimonies about Christian figures and movements. Which is like there's nothing wrong with. I think it's cool to have like testimony movies, like Father Stew, for example. I think was like this was an okay Christian movie because it was a story about a guy who was a bike rider who was like a delinquent, a boxer, and then he became a priest basically. And I thought this was really cool. Because this was story driven. Father Stew was. So yeah. Let's see what else. It's possible our Father has used those movies to draw people to Christ. I went to film school, so I have a pretty high standards for cinematic storytelling, but I think we need to be charitable thinking when judging someone else's creativity. Why do we need to be charitable, right? I think it's just, I feel like it's, I don't watch these movies because it doesn't fit my preferences, but I thank God for their contribution based on their capabilities. When judging someone else's creativity, so that means we can't judge any bad movies whatsoever. Goodness gracious me. When I say what I say is, if a story resembles Lord of the Rings in that it promotes a Christian worldview without having to mention Jesus, it works perfectly. For real, that's so true. So, yeah. All right. What else? Oh, whoops. Christians are not mocked, you're lying, or you're wrong in many points. If you think the West is mocking Christianity, then that's how secularism works. The same thing that is happening in India, where they mock the fake sides of Hinduism. In order to become better, criticism is needed, regardless of religion. God is going to accept anyone who does good deeds, whether it is in Christianity. Well, okay, that's okay. This guy's just insane. It's just that's a Garbaggio worldview, is what it is. All right, cool. So those are some pretty insane comments. Those are pretty bad comments, I would say.
I'm not criticizing my own brothers and sisters in Christ for the fun of it. It's embarrassing for me to acknowledge that we are made fun of and have such a bad reputation in the film space. It has to be done, and we can't have people trampling.
Yes, which is why, like, ultimately as well, like, if Christians actually make good movies, not only would if we go beyond like just preaching, we would be able to better communicate the gospel or gospel truths through entertainment rather than through a preaching. Like, because if I wanted to go to a preaching, that's what I would do. I would go watch up. I would look at a video. I would go to church to see if something needed to be preached. But the whole purpose of a movie, like, that's the same thing with a documentary as well. If I wanted to watch a documentary about like something Christian related, then I'd go watch a documentary. But if I'm wanting to watch a movie, it needs to be fun. It needs to be like there that I'm actually doing it. So yeah. If the reason for someone to convert is a movie like this, I understand, but even so, I still think it's such an unusual experience to have. Good Christian movies could literally bring so many people to the religion. Yes. So, which is why that's the whole point, right? If we actually create good Christian movies, then yeah, it's all the better. It's all the better. Or in our evangelism, right? If we compare like different themes, like the fact I still think about all the superhero movies. I think there's a very good reason why superhero movies are incredibly popular, and that's because like people desire a hero, right? People require, like, we're drawn to saviors, right? We're drawn to Christ types in media, because that's our desire. So yeah, Braveheart, low key. Welcome, Red Hussar. You could partner with Pilgrim's Pass. He's a Christian and he does a lot of anime reviews. I think, hey, I'd love to see some of this stuff. Like, if we get to communicate together, I'd love to. If I ever get his contact, I'd love to see that. What do you think about free grace theology? I wonder if there are movies with those concepts. You'll have to define it for me. Give me a second. Note, I don't ever speak in like a teaching capacity, so don't take my word for this. Free grace theology holds that the only condition of salvation is faith, excluding good works and perseverance, holding to eternal security. The only condition of salvation is faith, excluding good works and perseverance. Okay, so I would say, taking James in context as well, it would be, yes, that is the only condition of faith. However, I would be in the same position as Paul, that if Paul writing to I don't think it's Corinthians, but I'm gonna say it's Corinthians where he explains this. Just where Paul, the sexually immoral will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. Corinthians. It is Corinthians. Cool. But I take the same position as Paul when he's writing the Corinthians, which he's saying, like, I don't think you're unsaved, and you would say that you have faith in Jesus Christ. However, the sexually immoral, the homosexuals, murderers, murderers, liars, thieves will not inherit the kingdom of heaven, which does imply, right? Which is like, he's saying that if you are matching what the world looks like, if I look at the world and they're sinning, and I look at you guys who say you have faith and you're sinning as well, then I'm gonna press X to doubt, right? I'm gonna say, like, maybe you're like, I'm gonna doubt if you are saved. I hope you're saved, but these are some of the doubts that I have. Or I'd also say from James, right, which is faith without works is dead as well. So I wouldn't hold to free grace theology, but of course, like, I would say that the only thing that saves you is your faith, but your faith does have consequences, right? It shows, there are things that show from your faith, which indicate you are saved as well. So there you go. But King David, adultery, murdered, and lied. Yes, but those are certain sins in his life. But if he repented, that's all it is. Faith leading to the change of life, like good works. If he says he has faith and but no change, yeah, it's not true. Your faith does need to show inside out, for real, for real. And again, I'm being distracted once again. So let's get back to the video.
Name of God that we serve, not even if it's uncomfortable to stand up for our own values. So let's get real for a second. The whole point of this video is to understand why Christian movies have such a bad reputation and what we as Christian filmmakers, artists, and as an audience can do about it. Because I'm sure you're wondering, if you're a Christian artist, why are we so bad? Or what about us is so bad?
There's I will say there are some really good Christian artists. When you think of like a lot of the classical composers, when I think of like Bach, right? I'm pretty sure Bach was a Christian, right? I'm pretty sure it's Bach, but I looked at I got this from a Mike Winger video, but Bach apparently whenever he wrote, he actually dedicated all of his classical music to God, to the glory of God, which is why it's like Christian music exists. So like good Christian artists exist from the past. When I think of like I'm pretty sure Leonardo da Vinci as well. No, it's not Leonardo da Vinci. I'm thinking of Michelangelo, right? When we think of like these really amazing Renaissance painters, right? That like good Christian artists exist. So yeah, okay, I was right with Bach. Thank you, Brother Gregory. Saint Sheepy says, I've been planning to do a Christian novel series myself, but hope I don't fall into the same pitfalls a lot of bad Christian films fall into. And of course, the two major ones, when you think of like the Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings, amazing stuff. Amazing stuff is all it is. So yeah.
And what can we do about it? Or what even does Christian art look like? Maybe you have an idea already, but the point of this video is that I've done all the work for you, and I'll articulate this issue as best as I can with an emphasis on a solution toward the end. There's no point in this discussion if we're unwilling to work toward a solution, so keep that in mind. I will say something in this essay that may challenge your current understanding of filmmaking, art, and culture, so be prepared to ask some tough questions and face some hard truths. So, without any further delay, let's dive into one of the most nuanced issues concerning filmmaking and Christianity. I've compiled a list of movies I think have some good biblical themes, and we will be ranking them later in the video based on the criteria we'll be discussing in the moment. The list I've made here today is by no means comprehensive, but this video isn't simply about ranking movies. It's about gaining an understanding of why mainstream Christian movies are stereotypically known as cinematic Sunday sermons. You might say, but I thought The Chosen was a good show.
I agree with that, right? Which is like, that's ultimately it, right? Which is like, if your movie would be better as a sermon, then keep it as a sermon. That's all it is. So yeah, there was an old animated Narnia movie that I thought was really good and conveyed the message well. Hey, that's cool. That's cool stuff. Narnia is one of the first isekai stories. You know what? I agree with that. Yeah, he's about to yap about The Chosen, but like I like the positioning of this video, right? Which is like, it's these are the sorts of things like I like to complain a lot. You've seen some of my videos, right, where I complain about like some Christians being cringe. But I like the positioning of this video that he's saying, I'm gonna explain where the problem comes from, and he's gonna actually give us a solution, which I have a sneaking suspicion where his solution is going to lead. But hey, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Oh, but here's the thing. I do not count most Hallmark films and shows made by PureFlix and other Christian companies as good, because the majority of secular people and even Christians point to those very films to demonstrate why we are so bad at making good movies. Now, I'm not going to make statements like this without proof, so rest assured, I have taken the time to include plenty of examples in this video. I've put hours into formulating this as a case study so we can understand why they do or do not work.
You know, I appreciate that he's put a lot of work into this, and it does show that it's like I can never imagine doing an hour, 30-minute long video, so like I hope it's good stuff. I think the problem is that the creators of these films have a message, but not much else, and sometimes even less than that. Yeah, and that's right. Like, you know why Hollywood is able to input so many so many things in their movies? It's because first they have a profit motive, but they also have a story motive, second as well, and they're able to like put small bits and pieces of like political propaganda in their movies. So that's why like Hollywood does it really, really well, and Christians could learn a lot from how Hollywood manages and does their stories, and like inputs their political propaganda in some of them, or puts like in like their subliminal messaging in it, and they do well to do that. So,
and how we can implement amazing story building techniques in our own writing, or even as an audience, so we know what to look for in a movie. We serve the master storyteller, and we're not doing a good job of representing him by making films that give us a bad reputation.
That's so true. I want to say that as well, which is like, that's the, if God is like, if being made in the image of God means that we need to be, or we don't need to be, when we're reflecting God's creativity, right? I think it would be best for us if the creativity was actually really, really good. That's why, like, this is the whole point of the Christian Anime Podcast, right? Which is like, we're all made in the image of God. So even though like people like most Japanese people are atheists, it's cool and it's good that they're still reflecting being made in the image of God through the creativity of the anime that they're creating. So yeah.
I'll expand on this point as we continue. Now, to fully understand this topic, I've narrowed down 3 questions we'll explore today. So keep these in mind as we delve into this discussion. Number 1, why do mainstream Christian movies have a bad reputation? 2, what can we do to improve movies as a whole? So that's in the whole of culture, not just Christian movies. And 3rd, what elements or themes must a film include to be considered?
To be a Christian movie, you know, this is an argument which is like really okay. Let's I'll offer kind of my answers first before we look at his. But okay, why do Christian movies have a bad reputation? It's mainly because they're not story driven, they're agenda driven first. They're agenda and message driven first, rather than story driven. I think that's ultimately that's the first reason. It's not that there's not enough funding for these Christian movies. It's just that's the main reason, right? Because they're actually bad movies. They are objectively bad movies, and they are documentaries rather than movies themselves. So yeah, how can we improve the film space? In general, it's just to create good movies in general. So when we think of like most of the modern movies, which are all like leftist garbage, that's the ultimate way to do it, right? Which is like we don't push an agenda, we like actually tell a good story. So yeah. And what does a Christian film look like? I've been challenged on this before, because the way that I use the phrase Christian anime, wouldn't be helpful if we said like, because the way that I use the term Christian anime, I would say something like all Marvel movies would be Christian movies, according if we were to use my definition of Christian anime and apply it to Christian film and Christian movie. So yeah, it's like that's ultimately it, right? Which is like the purpose of me using the term Christian anime is that it's to point out all of the different ways that good values are being promoted, and how they would lead you closer to Christ, right? Or like how these values are actually reflective of a God who is present in the world. Those are the sorts of things that I'm kind of looking for and pointing at in terms of that. So there you go. You have to admit that Marxists have better media and more creativity than Christians in general. It's not that they have better media. It's just that they're better at like they're better at capturing creatives. Creatives are more likely to be Marxist as well, because they they live in a world, right, where they're like they're the oppressed. So there's all it is. As I said, like this wasn't the case like 200, 300 years ago. When you looked at most of the mainstream Christian artists and musicians, they were mostly Christian. So it has happened in the past, right? The only reason why it exists the way it is today is because like people have such a visceral reaction to creativity and art, and they want everything to be boring. That's all it is. You're just happy, says Salami. Marxism is just better at controlling it as well. And Marxism is way more subversive as well. They're so good at being subversive. I think that's actually one of the things that we as Christians need to be better at. We need to be as wise as serpents. As peaceful as doves, wise as serpents. I think that's the phrase it is. Gentle as doves, that's what I'm looking at. Christian films used to be fantastic. There's a reason why The Passion of the Christ was the highest grossing film of all time. So yeah, I've only seen bits of The Passion of Christ, but yeah. Sometimes also about how Christians are considered the most unfun out of or anti-fun people as well. Yeah, and it's not that we're anti-fun. It's just that like I get this accusation as well with my take on like fan service. Innocent as doves. My sincerest apologies. Goodness gracious me, I am I'm butchering the text today. Chris Pratt is Christian and listens to worship music on the radio type. So yeah. Hey, I thought Chris Pratt was properly Christian because he goes to Hillsong. So yeah. All right. Whoa. Oh my goodness. It's so Jover at this point. You know, I learned something new about the King James version recently. Give us a second. Someone told me KJV added KJV. All right, I have to look this up now. Someone told me about the KJV that King James in the 1611 version actually added stuff to the Bible. Oh, come on. I don't know. No, there is definitely something. What was it? KJV. Someone told me on the Discord. You're distracting me again, chat, but I'll have to find this now. Oh, here it is. The Geneva Bible, was it? 1599 Geneva Bible? Okay. We're gonna have to show this as comparisons. Give us a second. You're distracting me, chat, but this is the podcast on moment. Open in browser. We'll be able to see it now. All right. So here in 1599 Geneva Bible, Ephesians 6:12, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the worldly governors, the princes of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness, which are in the high places." So that's the 1599 Geneva Bible. For comparison, the KJV says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in the high places." So the fact that the King James Bible, the King James Version removed "against the worldly governors" because King James had he definitely did have a motivation to remove that, because he didn't want like people to rebel against the king, because it was like, oh, maybe that sounded like, what if King James is a worldly governor, right? So there it is. Sam Jip has a sermon about the Geneva Bible. No, but I think I should think that if there were changes like this, the fact that the Geneva Bible was so you're saying that the Geneva Bible is bad. Is that what you're saying? It's not a proper translation. Well, we'll wait on Lunatic for this. Not in the mood to deal with textual critics who have a haughty spirit, though. Oh, goodness gracious me. Any translation is better than the awful Gen Z Bible. I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying that if the thing that King James only say, there are also other things. What's the name of that channel? KJV Bible removed. Who's the guy who does Ironland? Give us a second. KJV. There's this one as well. I know we're getting distracted, chat, but this is a important point why I'm not a KJV onlyist.
There was one word that King James did not allow in his translation of the Bible. Wait, what? Yeah, this word did appear in the other popular translation of the day, the Geneva Bible, like in Isaiah, the victim of the blank will be rescued. But King James didn't like this word, so he took it out and replaced it with something different. The victim of the terrible will be rescued. Another example would be Jeremiah 15:21, which says, I will redeem you out of the hand of the blank. Overall, in other translations, this word appears about 20 to 30 times, and in every instance, King James and his state-sponsored translators took it out, maybe because they were afraid that it could be used to criticize the monarchy. Of course, I'm talking about the word tyrant. And now you know.
All right, cool. So those are some of the. I'm gonna say you're free to be a KJV onlyist. I like it's perfectly your it's your conscience. If it's a conscience issue, and it's a secondary issue to me. But I think whenever KJV onlyists say that, oh hey, the KJV Bible is the only Bible that has been uncorrupted and yada 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 yada, I think it's just like you have to be so aware that there's a reason why King James had King James is a great guy, right? I think he's such a base guy. The fact that he went around England being like burning all the witches, right? Like that's so based. That's just so based to have a king go do that. to be the witch hunter in chief. Like there's so many things. There's so many things based about King James as well that I absolutely love about the guy. So no disrespect to him, but at the same time, like he is a guy who was able to he did have reasons to alter the Bible, I guess, in that sense. We also have much better knowledge of ancient manuscripts than they did when they translated the KJV. So yeah. Yes, there's nothing wrong with having KJV as your favorite, but there's zero translation to be KJV only. So that's all it is. All right, let's get back to the actual video we're reacting to. Goodness.
Considered Christian. As we review the movies in this video, I invite you to ask these questions with me, especially the last one, and think critically about how this issue pans out.
You know what?
We might disagree on several.
We would be much more likely to finish the video if we put it on a 1.5 seat.
Points, because I'll be throwing a lot of curveballs. In the following section, we'll dive into the core of this essay, unpacking the central arguments and examples that provide the foundation for our discussion. If you want to go straight to the final ranking of the movies, you can go to the timestamp on the screen. By the way, all the resources I mentioned in this video.
Okay, let us. Again, we're way more likely to actually finish the video if we do this. I hope he does a summary of why these videos are bad at 49:41. So I know he's gonna do. I think he's doing all the God's Not Dead videos in particular. So yeah, sorry, not videos. God's Not Dead movies. So yeah.
As we will see, some of these films don't do a good job and do the opposite. And keep in mind, there is a layer of subjectivity to these films, but I've tried to keep the reviewing process as analytical and objective as possible. I'll be ranking each of these movies based on 3 questions. 1, what is the theme? 2, how are good and evil portrayed, and by what standard? And then 3, what is the production value?
These 3 were my best friends. I enlisted with them. I don't want to have to visit my sons here.
Daddy, I signed up already.
You know, when soldiers who live, they live,
Oh,
they can do
goodness
that. You
gracious me.
can't.
I think this is wait. I'm really showing my unculturedness here. This is Hacksaw Ridge. Let's go. I guessed the movie. I haven't watched Hacksaw Ridge. There's it. And I guessed what movie it was before chat brought it up. Okay, cool. I am not uncultured. There you go. There you go.
Think and pray about everything.
Well, I know that's gonna be hard.
It won't be hard, it'll be impossible.
Starting strong, we have Hacksaw Ridge. Oh my goodness. It's such a good film. Before I get into it, I just want to say that this movie challenges the notion that violent men are brave men. It challenges the idea that violence and aggressiveness in and of itself are equated with masculinity. Now, I'm going to pause that thought for a minute and explain some of the more grisly aspects of this film. Right out of the gate, we are hit with a semi-truck of reality. This movie explores the horror of war and shows some gut-wrenching moments. This film pulls no punches. A little background info. This movie is based on the true story of Desmond Doss, a devout Seventh-day Adventist who refused to use a weapon due to his convictions.
Okay.
The term Hacksaw Ridge.
I was told by a friend that apparently this movie was centered around a Jehovah's Witness, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to watch it now because it's a Jehovah's Witness. Now that he's mentioned that he's a Seventh-day Adventist, I'm like, you know what, maybe I should watch this movie. I don't know where I got that from, but I must have been misinformed. But apparently, I don't know where I got that from, but I just heard from people that he was apparently a Jehovah's Witness. And I was like, you know what? I don't really want to watch a movie that's pro Jehovah's Witness. So I guess I gotta watch this movie now. The Christian Anime Podcast is broadening his horizons. So that's all it is. Maybe 1.25 speed. Let's go 1.25. Okay, that makes sense. Seventh-day Adventist would make more sense. Okay, he's an honorary Catholic. He's our guy. Goodness, no, stop trying to claim him. I know you Catholics also want to try to claim C.S. Lewis as well, but yeah, it's just SDA, JW, LDS. All of them suck, and they are not Christian. Doesn't matter. I am more open to Seventh-day Adventists. Because I'm aware of a lot of Seventh-day Adventists have actually distanced themselves away from like the original prophet. So I am open to SDAs being Christian and actually saved. So definitely not JWs, and definitely not LDS. But I'm perfectly fine with SDAs now. So yeah. Now we already have the guy who converted Lewis to Christianity.
Refers to a steep escarpment on the island of Okinawa, Japan, where one of the bloodiest battles of World War II occurred. Doss volunteered for the army during World War II, and he was teased by his peers for his conviction to not bear arms. But despite this, he went on to serve as a medic during the Battle of Okinawa in 1945.
Ooh, base.
During this insane battle, despite having no firearm whatsoever, he single-handedly saved the lives of over 70 men. This movie is so freaking powerful. After I finished this movie, I remember thinking, now that is masculinity. Don't get me wrong, physical fitness is a part of masculinity too, but it's not everything. This man displayed selflessness, compassion, and an insane amount of courage. It takes a fearless man.
Weirdest Seventh-day Adventist thing for me is the whole not believing in hell, but I know that would be a deal breaker for me. Like if a Christian was like, I don't believe in hell, which would be, if that's true, that's sus. That's sus, and that's pretty bad. So yeah. Your grandparents' cousins were civilians who miraculously survived the Battle of Okinawa. That's amazing. That's pretty based. Pretty based.
Man, to do what he did. And I love the implications and the message that was directed at fellow men who are watching the movie. Being a masculine man doesn't mean being strong or physically fit. It also means being able to show compassion and help others weaker than yourself. What's amazing, though, is this film is shown through the lens of a biblical worldview. That's why we can see and be empowered by the story of people like Desmond Doss, because the light shines.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like he's all the stuff that he's explaining here these are all reasons why it has to be story oriented first, right? It's like if if you tell a good story, that's way better. Like, if you tell a good story through a biblical worldview, you're gonna get a way better movie at that. And I love World War II movies as well. But I that's the other thing as well. I think about all of the movies, like, what if we had like Christian romance movies, right? Or if we had like Christian sci-fi movies or Christian fantasy movies. Like, we already kind of do have Christian fantasy movies. But if we think about all of the different places where everything could be Christianized and be interpreted through a biblical worldview instead of like a secular worldview, I think you'd be way better off entering those genres and just placing Christian worldview on that rather than going on it, rather than preaching in a documentary style. He's talking about Hacksaw Ridge, so yes, or allegedly anyway. I'm pretty sure it's Hacksaw Ridge, and chat has confirmed he's talking about Hacksaw Ridge. So
through those dark moments. This one interview from the man himself says it all.
I was praying the whole time. I was just kept praying, Lord, please help me get one more. When I got this, I said, Lord, please help me get one more.
Lord, help me get one more. That is so awesome. The cast.
Yeah, that's so powerful. That's absolutely amazing. What a cool guy. What a cool guy.
Killed their roles, pun intended. Andrew Garfield is awesome, and he's actually on another film in this list. So for ranking, this movie can only go in one place, A tier. If there was another level, we're going.
You should just have an S tier. It should be an S tier, not an. It shouldn't be like an A plus. It's an S tier. All right. Christian sci-fi goes hard, low-key. It's not always popular. Oh, like, I'd love to see some Christian sci. If there was like a Christian version of Doctor Who, I'd absolutely love it. So
on that one, just because of the raw and empowering character development, relationships, courage, and so much more. If you haven't seen it already, I highly recommend it.
Do you think you're smarter than me, Wheaton?
Oh, this one. Best scene from the movie. Goodness gracious me.
You can make that I won't have an answer for.
I never said I was smarter.
That's the first intelligent thing you said. In that classroom, there is a God, and yeah, I'm him. I'm also a jealous God, so do not try to humiliate me in front of my students. If you truly feel a need to continue with this charade.
Yeah, this is my first time hearing of Desmond Doss, actually, so really cool guy. What a cool guy.
We'll make it my personal mission to destroy any hope of a law degree in your future.
That's it. There's a book called Our Lady of the Artilects. Lewis had a space trilogy? I'm gonna have to look this up now. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know, Brother Gregory. That's really cool.
Have a nice day.
How could we do this ranking without a bad movie? Introducing God's Not Dead. Yikes. That was essentially my gut reaction upon rewatching and finishing this movie.
I have not read the space trilogy. I'm gonna need to see this now. Goodness gracious me. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Back to this guy. I agree with this because, like, even just from a first look of the trailer, it's a really yikesy, very corny. It's just odd. It's just not. It's not. Christian directors certainly not sending their finest. So yeah.
I saw it years ago, and I was not looking forward to seeing it again, even if it was for scientific purposes. I'm just going to quickly go through my notes, and you will see how awful this movie is. I have two main critiques of this film and others like it. First, unrealistic characters, which includes the mockery.
No, I think we kind of got this, but we are going to criticize this in terms of, like, apparently this does actually happen in real life. So yeah, as much as how strawman-y they appear, apparently it's like, well, just from chat's testimony, apparently some of these characters are actually real people. So there you go.
Of secular individuals and the ironic tomfoolery of the Christian characters themselves. I'll get into this in a moment. Second, the dialogue is so bad. It isn't realistic. It isn't funny. It's not even passable. I'm afraid you'll have to witness this for yourself if you haven't already.
Oh boy, this is our live reaction. We're gonna see what we're gonna see.
Did you hear what I just said?
Right. For some reason, God's Not Dead is just like super quiet on my side, so I hope you guys can hear it as well.
I have cancer.
This couldn't wait until tomorrow.
What? How can you say that to me? I thought you loved me.
Alright, let's subtitle this. Far out.
I have cancer.
This couldn't wait until tomorrow.
What? How can you say that to me? I thought you loved me.
I do. But you're changing our agreement. You're breaking our deal.
You make it sound like a contract negotiation.
Well, what did you think this was?
I thought it was love.
Grow up, Amy.
love is the most overused word in the English language.
Guys, this is
This isn't dialogue. I agree. That's just like this is a hypothetical. This is a hypothetical conversation, not actually a dialogue. That's all it is. This could have waited till tomorrow. Amy, this could have waited till tomorrow. I'd never say that. No, yeah, even I've never said that my whole life. This could have waited. No, it would be this couldn't wait till tomorrow rather than this could have waited till tomorrow. It's all it is.
in dialogue. It's like ChatGPT and another AI model were having a conversation. It's robotic and feels awkward to listen to. I feel like the whole point of the dialogue in the movie was simply to get a point across and nothing else. Just get the exposition to the viewer's ears and move on. This isn't storytelling, and this movie makes me want to eat a hot chili pepper because this is outrageous, and I want to feel something other than vast amounts of cringe. I just thought of a third issue this film has, which would be the theology. Now, I'm not afraid to talk about this because if you've gotten this far, that tells me you're either a critical thinker or you have thick skin or both. So either way, thank you for watching, and I'm about to push some buttons.
Ooh, goodness.
The portrayal of God as some genie and chill hippie dude who only cares about love is ridiculous and unscriptural. All you have to do is rub the lamp 3 times and say prayer, and boom, your cancer is gone, your girlfriend likes you again, and your family is back together. Now, it's true that God is generous and enjoys giving to his children, but he doesn't.
Again, like I think it's there has to be a good way of like, because I've heard a lot of miracle stories. Stories of people doing miracles. And it's often the case that you have to do it in a way which actually makes sense. Oh no, there is a actual pretty good movie. I think it's Sabrina the Nazi Years. Sabina, sorry, Tortured for Christ. That's the name of the movie. Oh boy, is Google gonna work for me? I feel like with miracles, you need to show a situation where someone didn't get a miracle or something. That's true. But I think of something like this movie. I haven't actually put this on my letterboxd. I need to. But this is a movie called Sabina, which I actually enjoyed the first time I watched it. So the original movie was Tortured for Christ, which was a bit weaker, but it's still like focused on the story of this pastor and how he was tortured by like the communist Romanian government. And this was okay. Like it was okay because it was following his story as he was tortured. And it wasn't the most amazing movie ever. It was like very documentary-esque. This one was not so bad, because it genuinely showed like the struggles of like this Romanian this Romanian couple as they converted to Christianity. The guy became a pastor, and then they were both tortured by like the German government. The German government which controlled Romania at the time. So this was actually pretty cool. This was a pretty cool movie, and there's actually a miracle. I would classify it as a miracle that occurs in this movie, and it was really cool at the end when it happened. Demonetized for the swastika, for real. I hope I don't get demonetized though. I've only shown it once. YouTube, don't demonetize me. Don't demonetize me. I feel like with my motto, I don't really have a motto. The best Christian movies I can think of are like historical ones. Yeah, if it's like a historical and shows if it's a historical movie showing like the struggles of someone, that's the best kind of Christian movie. So yeah, that's all it is. I think a fictional movie can work. You just have to do it in the same way as like you just have to follow in the same way like happens. It happens for everything else except House of David. Goodness, the House of David hate, for real. That's pretty good. Lots of Christians forget that Christians were also discriminated, imprisoned, and killed by the funny mishtash people. Lots of movies I like as a Christian are historical movies which don't even preach the Christian message. It's just It's just got like the Christian worldview. I wouldn't say, yeah, Christian atmosphere is a good word, but it's like, you interpret it. It's got a Christian worldview, world lens on it. Welcome, Christian connoisseur. Welcome, welcome. Very cool. Let's continue. The mission. I keep hearing about this mission. I'm gonna watch it at some point.
Give in to our demands. He rewards obedience and faithfulness, like how he rewarded Abraham and Job with much wealth and prosperity due to their righteousness and faithfulness. This weak jellyfish theology portrayed in mainstream Christian films is a desperate attempt to appeal to everybody as well as existing customers. If you're trying to please everybody,
Yeah. This is like, it's got that word of faith, prosperity gospel kind of stuff. Wrangling. It's like, it's just oozing and just like cringing throughout. That's all it is. So yeah.
Nobody. I was going to save this part for where I address the hate comments, but I'm too deep into it to turn back. So here's what one commenter had to say about this particular vein of theology. Quote, "In my opinion, this is a false dialectic brought on by Protestantism and a heavily Satan-influenced media." He goes on to say, "You honestly need to escape this entire way of thinking. It's destructive and only comes when you can't reasonably define your faith and its practices. You find yourself under some pressure to invent ways to prove you're a Christian because there is no deeply rooted tradition to pull from." Finally, he says, "If you are a Christian, then everything you do will naturally be filled with your worldview. Otherwise, you are inauthentically trying to appeal outside of your beliefs, which is self-betrayal and more cringe than trying to force the word of Jesus into every song you make. The orthodox worldview informs my every decision, so my art will reflect that naturally. Long story short, look into orthodoxy. A lot of Christian issues are actually just Protestant issues. A child lost in an increasingly nihilistic..."
I would disagree with this. It's not necessarily, these are like Protestant issues. It's mainly like, it's not that there are Protestant issues, because there are good Protestant movies. there are like Protestants actually are able to infiltrate the media better. There's C.S. Lewis, right? C.S. Lewis is Protestant. So yeah, I would reject it's a Protestant issue. It's more like it's an evangelical / boomer evangelical issue rather than that. So yeah, or more like American issues as well. That's true.
World, end quote. There are a lot of things that I agree with here, but there is one thing I strongly disagree with, which
I hope this guy's Protestant. If he's not a Protestant, we're gonna stop watching the video. It's not a Protestant issue. It's a casual megachurch culture issue. Yes, for real. Evangelicals do not have a good theology of art. Eastern Orthodoxy has a better theology of the beautiful. Which is why I will say, like, the Ortho Bros and Catholics have good art as well, but I wouldn't discount Protestants either, because like they have made like good texts, and actual good songs in the past. So, and good music in the past, I should say. So yeah.
To in a moment. Firstly, I agree that we must escape the way of thinking that everything must be infused with a direct and explicit reference to Jesus. It's not beneficial, since movies are not sermons. They are stories that involve subtext, foreshadowing, and narrative woven throughout. I think many Christians feel some pressure to measure up to this idea that we must infuse messages of Jesus in everything, since they are Christians. But part of being a Christian simply means making the best product possible, which means our worldview and principles will naturally be showcased.
That's so true, right? If you are like this is why I like being surrounded by cute anime girls, right? Because being the theology of cuteness, the theology of, like, this is why I like anime as well. It's because it's a celebration of what is good and what is beautiful and what is cute, and I am drawn to that. Like, there's a reason why I like being surrounded by cute anime girls. It's because, like, if this is what God provides, right? Which is God is the creator of everything that is good and beautiful. So why wouldn't we celebrate cute anime girls as well? So there you go. Even Jesus used parables, for real.
Good stories are inherently Christian because they have a high moral standard and they are made with excellence. So where I disagree with this commenter is the issue that Protestantism itself is the issue and Orthodoxy is somehow superior.
Yeah, I want to see if he has a better take on this, because I haven't cooked on this a little longer.
I want to make it clear I'm not against either set of beliefs. I think the upholding of tradition is beautiful, and we could use more of it in this culture. And likewise, Reformed theology is critical to our thought processes in this age. The issue here is not a matter of which denomination is better. They each have their highlights and drawbacks. No group of people within Christianity is perfect. The problem is that the weak jellyfish theology is portrayed by Christian media as Protestant in their films. And these studios have a lot of money behind them. So the people who see them think that the Protestant faith is embodied in these films. Essentially,
Cute or hot? I only like women who are adult. I like adult women as well, but cute adult women exist as well. That's the. Though I wouldn't start using beauty as an argument for somehow Eastern Orthodoxy or Reformed Catholicism. Oh, sorry, Roman Catholicism. As I said, well, you know my take. You know my take on the Ortho Bros and the Catholics, which is like I'm perfectly fine with them. Like I think you can, again, like I'm big ecumenicalism. Women in real life are cruel and inhumane to us. That's terrible, terrible. Argument from beauty is the worst argument for theism. I think it's one of the better arguments for for theism. So, because beauty exists, therefore there has to be a creator for it. I think it's just like whenever I look at someone creating art, or like same thing with anime, right? Which is why I'm drawn to anime, and like I absolutely hate Western media. It's because like so modern Western media anyway. It's because anime is like it tries to celebrate, it's reaching out for something. It's reaching out for a god who is, or the creator who is beautiful. It's reflective of a god who is, it is reflective of a creator who has created the beautiful. So that's why I'm okay with it. Oh, goodness gracious me. Yeah, don't debate it with me right now. Don't debate it. You know, but you're well aware of my take on this, which is like I'm happy to hold hands with Catholics and Orthobros. There are plenty of Catholics and Orthobros in our community as well, which is like I'm perfectly happy to welcome you guys. I think most of you are saved anyway, as like our commonality anyway is Jesus, right? And like I don't think like Catholics aren't saying to me the only way to get saved is through Mary, right? Like if I had a discussion with a Catholic, and if I was to ask them sorry, pardon me, goodness, if I was to ask them to tell me what they thought the gospel was, they'd pretty much say the same thing as I would. So it's not like it's not the end of the world with a Catholic bro. So there you go.
Actually, the rest of us with a more solid theology are given a bad representation. So back to God's Not Dead. The Christian and secular characters are good examples of bad storytelling.
Yes. Well, she's a work in progress. so darling, I think it's best we just change the subject.
But I'm just saying that...
Nina, I asked politely. Nina, this wine is awful.
It's been cooked.
It tastes like it was sunning in a moldy basement.
Talk about your grapes of wrath.
Yeah, nobody talks like that. Let's replay that. That's actually terrible. That's absolutely garbaggio. Goodness gracious me.
Subject.
But I'm just saying that...
Nina, I asked politely. Nina, this wine is awful.
It's been cooked.
It tastes like it was sunning in a moldy basement.
Who speaks like this? I've never heard anyone speak like this about wine.
Talk about your grapes of wrath.
Well, I think this dinner serves as a valuable lesson. As Socrates put it over 2,000 years ago, noti seaton.
Yeah, nobody says this. How about we don't replay it? Cringe. Luke, we need to pray for you if this is how you genuinely speak. Imagine someone tripped in a film and said, God did that. I think just the general aspect of liking cute anime women as a Christian really depends on what exactly is their source material. Yeah, of course. You gotta be, we'll be aware of that.
Looks like a treat to her.
Oh, it's a no.
Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh.
It's a masterclass on how not to write
That's
relatable
great.
and interesting characters. C tier. A film along...
Oh, he put it in a C tier. No, there's no way you put that in C tier. That goes straight to F tier. Goodness gracious me.
Similar vein. Saving Christmas. I think this goes without saying, but the dialogue...
Hey, born again lunatic. No, I don't want to see any insults like that. Goodness gracious me. Like, I am also very sympathetic to incels because I'm not an incel myself because I like... this is why, like, I think the literally the only solution is the only solution for incels is you go to church. Literally just go to church, and you'll probably see a woman there, and you'll actually talk to them, and you'll actually have a good relationship with them. It's the same thing that happened with me, right? Which is like, as long as you're in a good church community, a good healthy church community, you're gonna stop being an incel. So I think that's literally the only solution to it. We need to save the true selves and make them fake selves. For real. Modern women are not worth talking to. I think you just need to go to a church registrar. That's all it is. If you're actually in a if you went to a Catholic church, I'm sure you'd find like good young Catholic women there. So that's all it is. Church doesn't help incelism all the time. Nope. It's, in my experience, it's the only solution. So there you go. And ultimately, if someone who's an incel is if someone wants to continue being an incel, they were probably not elect as well. I think some of the things that incels say, and like I've seen some of the rhetoric used by incels, and I'm like, you know what, this makes me more convinced that Calvinism is true. Because if someone was truly, if God truly did, because like if God truly did elect certain people, it makes sense. It makes sense because like they wouldn't be incels. So that's kind of my position on it. Because if someone has such a deep hatred for women that they're not gonna change their mind on it, I think and they're not willing to accept love in their heart, then I truly believe they're probably not elect in the first place. So there you go. That provisionist bros our response. So like the fact that incels exist makes me more convinced that Calvinism is true, because like some of the ways that, of course, like I'm not disregarding the fact that I think God can change anyone, but that makes it even more true that if there is such a class of people with so much hatred for women in their heart, I think that just makes it all the more reason why God needs to be the first to act in those people, to change their hearts, to soften their hearts, and actually introduce love in their hearts. And someone needs to pray over them, or God needs to first act before they act in the first place. So there you go. That's it. The fact that incels exist proves Satans exist. Yeah, that's true, but it also proves Calvinism exists. Calvinism is true as well. So that's just. I hope I've articulated that well. If I haven't articulated that well enough, I apologize. So yeah. If you think about it, Calvinism, no, it's not a biblical black pill. It's just like it just goes to show you how the world sucks. But it's amazing because we can pray to a God who is going to say like, no, I'm going to elect certain people to do that. Let's continue for real.
Dialogue is uninteresting and character development is non-existent. Just take a look at this one clip from Christian Movies Are Bad by John Keefe.
Let's watch a scene from a Christian movie.
Yeah. That's Christmas. Don't do. I love your sister. I love her to death. And she loves doing this. She loves.
Yeah, this ain't dialogue at all. This is realistic, but I can imagine this situation happening, but it's not good dialogue. That's for sure. It meant that women who live by modernist values are not worth talking to. Women in churches are not like that. I have a hot take on this. I think there are some modernist women who would be okay. Like I've talked to women with modernist values, and it's not like I wouldn't. They're not on the same level as I would befriend them on the same level as someone who goes to church. But well, there are women who go to my church as well who have some modernist values as well. So like that's my hot take, which is like I think you just got to be aware of them. So that's all it is.
Put all the lights up and.
Tariff Act, which
But I look
anyone
at
raised or
what
lowered
Christmas is.
raised tariffs in an effort to
myself.
collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone know the effects?
How boring. Shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot. This isn't the result of a low budget. This is the result of laziness. Good editing can be achieved by a 13-year-old with a phone in iMovie. It doesn't take any money to edit like that. What it does take is creativity and a love for the art form.
Christian studios have plenty of regular supporters and money behind them. So the reason films like these are bad isn't from a low budget. It's simply laziness and a lack of willingness to put true creativity into the process.
For real,
And I'll
for
address
real.
this when we get to the hate comments from my previous video. This movie...
I want to see what his previous video was about. Let's see if it was actually really bad. And you... Dear Christian filmmakers, stop making faith-based films. Oh, that must have been his video. Cool. Cool. He also made a Five Nights at Freddy's video. That's pretty funny. Not gonna lie. Hey, this ain't a bad channel. This ain't a bad channel at all. Cool.
It goes into the C tier.
You were right, priest. You were right. This I promise you. I'm God. All that was used for vengeance will now be used for good. I bought this place thinking one day I would tear it down. But now the only things I care about are walking off this island with me.
The Count of Monte Cristo. This movie is one of my top favorites. And I know I said I'd be unbiased in these rankings, but you'll see in a moment why I enjoy this one so much. This movie is a tale of vengeance, betrayal, courage, loyalty, and faith. I cannot do this.
Give me a second, chat. I need to take a water break. Be right back. I hath returned from my position. Chat. Alright, welcome Natsu. My guy needs water. Yeah, I'm ever so slightly parched. Alright, let's continue.
Story justice without heavy spoilers, but I'll try my best here. The story centers around a man named Edmond Dantes and his betrayal at the hands of his best friend, Fernand. Because of his strong jealousy, he not only robs Edmond of his reputation, but also his fiancée.
Oh, that's
and
tough.
Condemns him to a life of
that's a big L.
misery in the bowels of a remote island prison. Throughout this ordeal, Edmond's faith is rattled. His life is threatened. But as he escapes the prison and later metes out vengeance on those who ruined his life, he learns to let go of his hate and turn to righteousness.
Oh, that's so base. That's so base. Goodness gracious me.
His family and honor. One of my favorite things about this film are the themes of justice and loyalty. Seeing the wicked men who ruined his life get their just reward is...
Apparently this is the Count of Monte Cristo.
So satisfying to see in real time. Like my earlier comments on moral standards, sinful behavior always has consequences, and the men who destroyed Edmond's life eventually become ruined and destitute themselves. I also cannot move on without mentioning the amazing friendship cultivated between...
This is why I'm like very partial to something like Chainsaw Man. Even though it's cringe, and I know like in the future there's going to be like really bad scene. But at least in the first season, there are like consequences for Denji. Right? Denji wants to try, like he's like, oh hey, I'm gonna try feel powers oppai, and then he does that, and then he doesn't actually feel anything as a result of that, and then he tries looking for a romance, and he tries looking for, and then he's abused by Makima. there are all these things that happen, but I think in Chainsaw Man in particular, like there are consequences for there are so many things that Sin is like impacting Denji's life in a negative way, and he's like trying to find like something that he's trying to find something that he's in so much that he wants to find purpose and meaning in something, considering his life sucked so much. So that's why I'm very partial to something like Chainsaw Man. He's not a role model. He's not a role model, but he is like the all of the problems that Denji is having is because he's trying to find something. He's trying to find purpose and meaning in things that won't give him purpose and meaning. That's all it is. So that's why I'm partial to Chainsaw Man, even though like I wouldn't recommend it because I know there's stuff that happens in the manga which is very cringe later. But it's in the same it's the same thing that would apply to like Count of Monte Cristo, I'm pretty sure. So yeah. Stop talking about these things. Hey, lunatic, we're all adults here, so don't be cringe.
In Esmond and Jacopo, a pirate whose life he saved after escaping prison. This friendship is awesome.
Oh, sorry.
And
Right. There's a panel where he's like, if dreams really come true, I hope to hug a girl before I die, which is a really good encapsulation of the modern male condition, which is like, you're not you're not gonna find like true satisfaction if you touch a girl. That's all it is. Like, or if that's ultimately it, which is why I think that's why I'm partial to things like Chainsaw Man, because I think that's ultimately, well, I'm anticipating that's the point of the story. So yeah.
Jacopo is willing to confront Edmond with reality and challenge him on his unwillingness to let go of his hatred for those who made him destitute in the first place. I won't give any more spoilers, so if what I said wasn't enough, you need to watch it yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna go watch this now.
This movie is a solid 9 out of 10. Great production value, amazing acting and writing. A tier.
We are not afraid to die partners, and we will never.
Oh, is this Shogun? No, this is the samurai movie where that's all.
No one should die. No, they could destroy the entire village and kill you all while we hide. No.
Yes, we have no choice, Mokichi. It is the only thing to do.
Now, silence. This movie was a hard one for me to watch. Not because it's bad, but because it's so good. In the beginning of this movie, you very quickly understand the dire circumstances that the characters will be placed under in this film. This is a story about two Catholic friends journeying to feudal Japan, where Christianity is outlawed. Anyone who professes to follow Christ is tortured and killed. This movie pulls no punches and shows you the full gravity of the situation. Even though this movie was hard to watch, it forces you to look inside yourself and ask, yeah, how would I act in this situation?
Whoa. Sorry, give me a second. Silence was the movie. Silence was the name of the movie. Catholicism in a popular TV. It's not a TV show. This is a movie. I know Shogun is a TV show that I'm pretty sure the main guy is Protestant. The main character. I've seen some of the scenes from Shogun, and it's like and there's some like interesting history tidbits between like Catholicism and Protestantism in that TV show. So there it is. You hate silence with burning passion? You think it's anti-Christian propaganda? Really? I'm gonna need to see it now. So don't watch the Count of Monte Cristo. Watch Gankutsu, the Count of Monte Cristo, which is a sci-fi anime adaptation. Oh, I'm gonna have to look this up now. Okay. I'll have to keep an eye on this then. This looks cool. I'm gonna add that. This is video worthy as well. So yeah, I'm gonna have to watch the actual movie and then compare it to. This is the video idea, which is comparing the movie to the anime adaptation of Counts of Monte Cristo. So I'm gonna agree with it. Cool. Thanks for the recommendation.
Am I willing to die for my faith? What am I willing to die for? Would I stand firm if placed in similar scenarios? Not to say that you will be tortured or should go out of your way to experience that. This movie makes you ponder the depth of your faith and consider what lengths you're willing to go for God's kingdom. I'm not giving any spoilers, so if you want to experience this yourself, go watch it. This movie asks a ton of questions and almost never answers them, but instead provokes the viewer to answer the questions themselves.
Oh, which is what makes a good movie, right? It is like it's so some movies it's okay if like they drip feed you ideology and they're like, oh, you need to we're pushing this message upon you. But like good movies as well, there are a lot of good movies that just give you questions and that you as the viewer are gonna come to your own conclusion. Like the movie just gives you information and then you come to your own conclusion as to what in the world that's yapping about. So yeah.
Want a movie that challenges your perspective on faith and trials and how to stay strong in the face of pain, this movie will certainly do that. It did for me. A tier. Okay, now for some not so rapid fire ranking. I will be going through these as quick as I can, but there are some themes in these movies that are so darn good, I will have to give a bit more depth. So here we go. The Passion of the Christ. This movie is nothing short of incredible. Seeing what Christ's last 24 hours leading up to his crucifixion looked like.
And this is, I know this is like really heretical of me, but I really need to watch Passion of the Christ at some point. I've only watched like bits and pieces of it, which is why I actually need to watch the whole movie. So I will get to this.
Tell is truly gut-wrenching. I honestly couldn't put it into words, but I think Brian Godawa said it well. I'm taking this excerpt from his book, Hollywood Worldviews, which I'll be doing a review on in the future. So make sure you subscribe for that. He starts by saying, the movie of the Passion begins in the Garden of Gethsemane, with Christ's betrayal at the lips of Judas and follows the last 12 hours of his earthly life and crucifixion, ending with a brief scene of his resurrection. But this is in no way merely another telling of the greatest story ever rehashed. It is an experiential exploration of the meaning of sacrificial
I also really like this because they all don't speak English. They speak Hebrew, I'm pretty sure, in the movie. So that's why I'm like, these are the sorts of things. Yeah, I haven't watched it at all, Salami. You're gonna unsubscribe from me until I watch it? Oh, goodness gracious me. It's so Jover. Christian anime podcast has fallen. This Passion of the Christ, the 6-hour-long one. I'm pretty sure it's long. That's all it is.
Substitutionary.
Aramaic, that's it, so yeah. Yeah, I really need to watch the whole thing as well at some point. So it'd be a good Easter special. Like I'd watch it with a couple of friends and watch it for Easter. So yeah.
Atonement, like no other Jesus movie has ever depicted. Most movies about Jesus.
Hey, that's all good. God and Gaming. Welcome to the stream.
Have covered the injustice, beatings, and crucifixion of our Lord and Savior. Some of them better than others, but never like this. All other Jesus movies are revisionist, candy-coated schmaltz compared to this one. Gibson based the gruesome details of his film upon a famous clinical investigation of Roman crucifixion and punishment, on the physical death.
That's some dedication. That's some absolute dedication.
Of Jesus Christ, published in the Journal of American Medical Association in 1986. The film translates this historical research onto the
Hey, welcome, Reagan. No, we haven't watched. Well, the stream is how long? We're about to approach our 2-hour mark. Oh goodness gracious me. I hope this guy yaps on as fast as we can. That's all it is. So yeah. It's 2 hours, 7 minutes. I'd actually watch that then. Hey, lunatic, you are perfectly. It's your prerogative on whether or not you should watch the Passion of the Christ. Oh really? That's really cool, Luke. It's amazing stuff.
The brutal vengeance, scourging whips of leather and bone ripping off flesh, pools of blood, and unidentifiable Christ with his face bashed in.
Sheesh.
And all of it true to the scriptures. He goes on to say, it is important to understand that the effectiveness of redemption portrayed in any story is exactly equal to the accuracy of the depiction of the depravity from which we are being redeemed. The brutal realism of Christ's suffering points to the depth and costliness of atonement, which was achieved for God's people through his once-for-all sacrifice. To show anything less is to diminish the gospel. Watching this movie with its in-your-face grisly realism provides a much-needed corrective to our modern pseudo-gospels with their bloodless Jesuses who exist to fill one's heart and life with peace, happiness, and fulfillment, rather than to die in place of sinners, saving them from God's wrath.
I did hear apparently there was some controversy around the Passion because it was too brutal in its depiction of the crucifixion. But yeah, I think it's just, and just from some of the scenes there, it's really bloody and really gory. But I think it's always good. This is why I like things like The Chosen, even though they add a few things in it. I like The Chosen because it does give you, especially for those of you who are like visual learners, it gives you a mental picture of what's happening, instead of just like from the text itself. So it's all it is. Showing realistic violence doesn't glorify violence, but I get it. I've seen that take so many times, Pelian's Remnant. So yeah, too brutal, probably not brutal enough, for real. Yes, don't pull your punches when depicting the truth. When I read some of the stuff in Judges, for example, like Judges, I'd love to see adapted in an actual thing, because some of the stuff in that, I'd love to see it portrayed in the brutality as is shown in as we read in Judges as well. So yeah,
I've said it better myself. No other explanation is needed. If you haven't seen this movie yourself, go watch it, unless you're queasy at the sight of blood. A tier. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, I love that he's bringing this up, but let's see.
Hours and hours of video essays have been made on how amazing it is, so if you want to watch a Lord of the Rings deep dive, I'd recommend looking one up. I put this movie in this list because it's full of rich world building, strong characters with relatable flaws, and
But how is it Christian? I want to see. My problem with The Chosen is that they started strong but lean into sentimentality. Some scenes are far too long and consist of characters emoting. Hate that so much. There's also, I think I've articulated this before as well, but there are some scenes where it's odd. It's so jarring when they add like some of the social justice comments in it as well. So that's also one of my problems with The Chosen, which is like there's some social justice isms which shouldn't be in there. That it's foreign to the text, and that it's been included as well. So yeah.
Absolutely epic resolution and soundtrack. One of my favorite things about this series, The Return of the King specifically, is the masculine presence of Aragorn. He's manly, he's rough, he can kick your butt, but he's also gentle, compassionate, and caring. This is the pinnacle of masculinity, and I think Tolkien did a fantastic job portraying what a masculine man looks like. So this movie has no other place than A tier. There is one issue people seem to have with this series though. Quote, Lord of the Rings isn't Christian. There is no...
Oh boy. I'd love these. You know what, chat? One of my main goals of this channel is that I'd love to see more of these comments as well. Not all of them, but I'd love to see like a small minority of these comments pop up on my channel. And it's slowly like we do see these comments here and there. And I love more of this, right? I want like a discernment ministry to actually pick up my channel and say, oh, hey, this is why Christian Anime Podcast is actually a deceiver. Oh, pardon me. But these are the sorts of things, right, which I think it's just... Wait, we're gonna see his defense for it. I'm pretty sure his defense is gonna be good. Just from what we've watched, I think he's got probably a good idea of how... I want to see his definition for a Christian movie, and obviously, like my definition as well would be different, because I'm using it in like a postmodernist sense. So I want to see what his definition is after this.
No Christian subtext. It is full of occult characters that God despises.
Oh, I'd love you to do that, Lunatic. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. So do it, Lunatic. Just encourage Kenny to do it as well. I'd love Kenny to do it. I expected Lord of the Rings isn't Christian too, to be from an atheist.
Well, all right. I'm going to get on my pedestal for a second, so bear with me. As I said earlier in this video, the desire to have a clear and thick defining line comes from a desire to be righteous and love God. So when certain people see things that the Bible shows are clearly evil and sinister, they're quick to dismiss anything that betrays those things. But it is a misdirect and misunderstanding of what Scripture tells us about depictions of evil. I'm not ruling out the conscience and how each individual has different tolerances for certain things. But here's the difficult and nuanced thing about this particular topic. As Christians, we can't rule out the depiction of evil in film without also ruling out Scripture, which has vast
so true. That's so true.
Depictions of evil. If you're going to rule out movies like Machine Gun Preacher, which
for example, right, when I think of Judges, there's one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the story in Judges with the what is it? it's the story in Judges with the Levite priest who buys a female slave. This female slave is unfortunately like really severely sexually abused by a bunch of guys, and then after that she dies. And then the Levite priest is like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna cut her up in multiple pieces, and I'm gonna send them to the 12 tribes of Israel. It's one of my favorite stories of the Bible, because it's just there. It's just like within Judges, you've got all of these like cool stories of the judge, and then the story about the Levite priest is just there at the end of Judges. And it's one of my favorite stories as well, because it like Judges is one of my favorite books as well, because it's got like this narrative cycle that goes again and again and again, and the beauty of it is that at the end of some of the chapters it's like Israel had no king and everyone did as they pleased as well. So like these are the sorts of things whenever I hear people that's what I would respond to whenever I hear people say, oh, depiction of violence bad. I would say look at Judges. Thank you for the $2 super chat, Salami. You're giving out the big bucks today, aren't you? I should make an expose about myself. 1000 IQ move. All right, let's continue.
Be talking about in a moment. You may as well take out the Book of Judges, which has massive amounts of violence and bloodshed.
He said it. He said it. That's amazing. That's based.
Of demons and evil spirits, you have to discard the New Testament and the Old. People may dislike this, but it's called consistency. There's a reason God shows these things to us in Scripture, because he wants us to learn something and grow closer to him. He contrasts his awesomeness and pure light with the utter darkness that is sin. And he shows us through history and narrative.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, we would not say, like, depiction of nudity would be a bit, we wouldn't do that, right? Because it actually, it might cause someone to, but that's the same thing with, like, for people who have, like, genuinely been to war or like have PTSD and things like that, like maybe watching a violent movie might not be such a good idea, right? So yeah, I would say that the only rule like the depiction wouldn't apply to would be nudity, but that's purely it because it's special. You personally like John and Romans the most. I see. Song of Solomon's allowed me to introduce myself. I really need to do a deep dive into that because it's just insane.
In his word. I've included a video in the description below that I think is beneficial if you want to learn more about Lord of the Rings and its themes specifically. I won't belabor the point since the next films in this list tie into this perfectly, but before I move on, I would like to make you aware of my channel membership. So there are different tiers with varying rewards, which include goofy emojis for the chat and a private Discord server. Make sure you check it out in the description below or click the join button next to the subscribe button. Also, you should subscribe. The Blank Side was a film that I was skeptical about when I first watched it, only to be pleasantly surprised by the amazing characters.
Oh, I've seen bits of this. I heard that this was actually a really good movie. If only, just ignore the fact, just ignore the stuff that happened after the movie, and just focus in on the movie itself.
And humor used throughout. It's explicitly Christian with many references throughout the film, but I believe the difference between this and God's Not Dead is the fact that every line of dialogue is purposeful and makes the characters feel real. It sounds like something someone would actually say. It's not staged or robotic. The characters have emotion, and you get the sense that they are really experiencing the things that they are going through. It also helps that this movie is based on a true story. My favorite thing about this film is that while Christian values aren't explicitly spoken in this film, they're shown through the characters and their actions.
Which is ultimately that's all it is, right? You don't have to say it. it's show not tell. That's the base rule. It's the base rule of storytelling. I don't know why your YouTube is glitching. It's kind of true. Maybe the World Economic Forum is hacking into the mainframe.
As Marcus Pittman said in the Eric Metexas show, quote, movies have become gospel tracts, but they don't have to be.
Oh, true. That's based.
Importantly, perhaps they shouldn't be gospel tracts. End quote.
So based. So based. Give me a second, chat. Oh my goodness. So too many breaks. I agree with that. Center your life in Christ, and anything you write will reflect his truth. For real.
I don't want to belabor the point, but when everything in the movie essentially becomes a cinematic sermon, it becomes boring, because part and parcel of storytelling is showing the audience characters making good or bad decisions, and we see the results of their actions. It's not that explicit messages can't be said, but they have to be done in a way that feels natural and appropriate for the situation that characters are going through. It isn't random, like, hey, Scotty, Jesus, man.
Hey, Scotty. Jesus, man.
Honestly, this movie was very enjoyable and the humor was on point. I love the themes of redemption and renewal with both the main character, Michael, and the love and sacrifice his adoptive family shows toward him and each other. Whenever Michael or the family makes a mistake, it's shown for what it is, a mistake. What's great about this film is if you're looking for something that doesn't
That's
take
also, yes. So if, this is why Jesus Revolution was so good as well, because in it, right, people fall, people fail, and there are like actual problems that even after they converted to Christianity, like they actually still face problems in the second or third act of the film, which is why it's good. It's good. Like it's realistic, right? This is what happens in real life, and they put it in a story where the characters have to overcome it. So yeah, that's why I absolutely adore Jesus Revolution as well. I'm not sure. I want to see if he's going to make a point of it. So we'll see. 3-act structure for real, Luke.
Itself too seriously, but has some great themes. You'll love this. It's amazing. I watched it with my whole family. The production value for this film, I would say, is good. The set design, costume design, everything felt real and lived in, like we were getting a snapshot of someone's actual life. It's just a real fun movie that you could watch with family or friends. So this movie goes into A tier. Next on the list, we have Sound of Freedom.
Oh boy, Sound of Freedom. I've actually watched this. The dialogue's corny. Here's my quick take on Sound of Freedom, which is dialogue's a bit corny. There are some bits of humor in it which are like it's respectful enough because the subject matter is serious, like it's very serious subject matter. I'm okay with Sound of Freedom, but it's not like the most amazing movie ever. I would say like a 6 out of 10. I love the story of it. Like it's a good it's a good premise. It's just the way it was executed was a bit I don't know, it's just a bit there are some things which are a bit clunky in it. That's all it is. So yeah.
Saw this movie in theaters when it first came out. I was both amazed by the production quality and the horrific nature of the implications of the story. If you haven't seen it, this movie is based on the life of a real man, Tim Ballard, who rescues children from sex trafficking. This character is played by Jim Caviezel, and he nailed the role. What's funny is that even though the man whom this story is based on is a Mormon, this movie is profoundly and undeniably Christian in its principles and portrayal of justice.
That's unfortunate. Okay, you know what? We're gonna forgive him for being a Mormon for a second. They actually had to tone down a lot of the stuff in the Sound of Freedom. I think even though they there are some scenes that are really, really bad in it, but it was really edging on that fine line. It was on the edge of that fine line of should we portray it worse or should we just continue going? Like I could see I could kind of see the creative process going on it. So there. I'll excuse Sound of Freedom on the grounds that the reaction to it was revealingly unhinged. For real. I think it's like this is the same thing with like Spy Family. Spy Family is not the most amazing thing, but because leftists hate it so much, I like Spy Family now. That's all it is. I actually have a question that I've had in mind for a bit. What's your question, Lunatic? Fire away. But yeah, I think it's just when I watched it, I watched it with my brother. This was okay, but yeah. Sound of Freedom isn't the most like amazing movie ever, but it's pretty cool. It's a like the story made sense. Thoughts on Christians making ARGs? I don't really. It's one of those things. I think it's like I think it's cool. It's a cool idea. I like ARGs. It's a part of internet culture. I don't see in particular why an ARG would be wrong. Yeah, for those of you who aren't aware, alternate reality games, I don't see how you would make a argument against it biblically. So yeah.
Justice, grief, and long suffering. For example, one character asked him why he is going out of his way, putting himself in harm's way to take these kids out of the clutches of the pedophiles. And he says, because God's children aren't for sale. Oh, that gave me goosebumps when I saw it in theaters. The writers of this movie were masterful in the way that they were able to portray and imply the horrors of sex trafficking without showing any.
That's so true. That's was like as I said, like you could see them really going on the edge of what was acceptable. Like at the end, I'm gonna spoil this. For those of you who haven't watched it, I'm pretty sure most of you have watched it. But at the end, there's a scene where the girl's literally about to be, the guy's about to do something to the girl, and it was really delicate in the way that they were able to do it, and the guy didn't actually do it. Like, she was saved at the last minute, which is just, oh my goodness, it's delicate, absolutely delicate is what it was.
Ethan grotesque. A tier. The only reason this film wouldn't be in a higher tier, if there was one, is because it's an indie film, and so there are a few minor parts that I would have liked a higher quality, like with the gunfights and action scenes, but it doesn't take away from the story whatsoever. It's just me nitpicking. I think this comment expresses these thoughts excellently. Quote, if Christian movies were like Sound of Freedom, they would reach more people.
Oh, for real.
Film didn't have any particular explicit or overt Christian message in the dialogue or story, but it shined a light on a dark subject. We as Christians should be reaching out to the non-believers with compelling stories which plant a seed rather than drown them. End quote. An amazing movie that sheds light on a dark subject. If you haven't already, go watch it and keep some tissue handy because you will shed some tears. Next up.
I'm not a heretic, but I didn't shed any tears when I watched it. But you know what? I can see why people cried as if they watched it. So, yeah.
Nefarious. Now, this movie has some good things and some okay things. I'm speaking more directly about the dialogue here and how it's written, but we'll get to that. First off, the positive. This movie is about James, who is interviewing a murderer who is...
I am interested in watching this at some point, because I think I did see one scene from it. But again, it's like, I have a feeling this had like, this goes in the same vein of like God's Not Dead. So yeah, I'm going to see his thoughts on it. Depending on his thoughts and his praise on it, I might watch it as well.
...was possessed by a demon. James is confused, scared.
I have no heart confirmed. Hey, Wimplo. It's one of those interesting things that if you put a cute anime girl in it, I'm more likely to cry. So Clanad After Story, oh my god, that broke my heart. Far out. Like there's a difference if you put a cute anime girl on screen. It's more likely, I'm more likely to cry than if you put like a real person on screen. So there you go. That's just my thoughts on it. Like I know that sounded really psychopathic, like sociopathic, but like as long as if you put a cute anime girl on it and she's crying, I'm more likely to cry as well. So there you go. That's all it is.
And even controlled by this demonic force of their conversation. The actor who portrays the possessed man does a stellar job at conveying this.
Podcast con is so too build. It's not over. We are back. We're so back is what it is.
Broken, subdued man who's being tormented by this demon who calls himself He Who Is Nefarious. I won't spoil anything here if you haven't seen it, but the tragic nature of this character who made all the wrong choices and ended up where he was is a cautionary tale of what happens when you open up a door for the enemy to step through.
Ooh.
Excellent message. This movie has next to no action. It is pure dialogue, which brings me to the first of the problems I have with this film.
Yeah, which is, I have a sneaking suspicion it's in that same realm of almost being as bad as are we hiccuping? Stream hiccuping? Come on, YouTube, you got this. You got this. I know I think this is about the longest that I've actually streamed, so I wouldn't be surprised if stream is suffering, because like it's purely dialogue movies. Something like Rascal Doesn't Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. I mean, stuff happens in it, but like that's the Rascal Doesn't Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. One of the main criticisms of it is that it's very dialogue heavy. Same with I've seen bits of Monogatari, which is like people complain about that as well. But you know what? I don't think it's not that bad. Like if dialogue is done well, like it was done in Bunny Girl Senpai, then it's not the end of the world.
One, the dialogue is a bit pointed at times, which isn't bad, but it's not.
Oh, waifu tier list was longer. I wouldn't be surprised with it. Yeah, Monogatari is all dialogue. I need to spend some time actually thinking more about that anime, because I know it's like, yeah, it's pretty sus. It's pretty sus at some points, and it's it's got a horny energy in it, unlike some others. So yeah, I got to think about Monogatari a bit more before I give my thoughts about it. So yeah.
As it could be. And two, the production value of this film was on the lower side, since in the opening shots, you can obviously see the visual effects are a bit rough around the edges. But with all that in mind, I think this film was a step in the right direction. But even though it misses the mark on a few
dialogue-heavy movies can be done well. 12 Angry Men is a movie that is nothing but dialogue in a single room with no scene cuts. But I think, but you were engaged throughout the whole scene. I see. It's good stuff.
things. So I'm placing this movie in a high B tier. Another more explicitly Christian film, I wanted to showcase Risen because it has some good themes and some things I think could be done better when it comes to having a more explicit Christian message. First off, excellent acting, and the plotline of this Roman tribune, Clavius, haunted by the horrors of war, is great. I think the arc of him starting out chasing and apprehending Jesus' disciples to becoming a sort of follower himself is ironic for him and edifying to watch it unfold.
Oh, that's
Your
cool.
ambition is noticed. Where do you hope it will lead?
Rome.
And?
Position.
Power. Which brings?
Wealth. A good family. Someday a place in the country. An end to travail. A day without death.
As he says, he desires
Ooh,
peace,
sheesh.
a fresh start, a day without death.
Which is, and the solution is, Jesus. That's all it is. They haven't talked about the forge. This guy hasn't talked about the forge anyway.
And Jesus is the one
I
who
don't think
shows
so.
him the way to true peace and joy by resting in him instead of man. There are two things I don't like about this film, which would be when Clavius asks the disciples why they follow Jesus, their answer is basically, miracles, bro, which I know is kind of true, but it also misses the mark for me. If you're going to have someone ask something so profound, you need to have a solid answer.
For real.
Instead of just saying, miracles, bro. Because
I think it's just like, because miracles are assigned onto unbelievers. I think there's a certain type of person like me where I really, the reason why I'm fully convinced now of Christianity is because of the different apologetics, like going through the evidence, like arguments for God, arguments for the resurrection. So I'm pretty convinced of that. But I think there is a certain type of person who is, if a miracle happens and they see a miracle happen, I think there's a certain type of person where a miracle is a reason for them to believe. So yeah, that's all I'll say.
doesn't really do
Like, for example, like I know one of my old teachers actually had a miracle occur for them. So there you go.
our theology justice. Anyway, I found that quite amusing. The other thing I had a small issue with was Clavius's conversation with Jesus. I know, and I can sympathize with writers from this perspective because I know it's kind of difficult to write dialogue from Jesus's perspective, but it's like if I try to write dialogue from my friend's perspective, I could kind of get it right, but I'm not really them, so the dialogue won't be the same.
Oof.
The conversation could have been better is what I'm getting at, but I understand why Jesus's dialogue in the scene is rather vague. All things considered, it's enjoyable to watch.
Good.
I'm putting it in B tier with Nefarious. Okay, the Prince of Egypt. You guys
Oh, sheesh.
kept commenting this one, and I mean a lot of you guys love this one, and for good reason. I do too. This DreamWorks animation is fantastic. Just look at this one scene showcasing the 10 plagues. Seeing a creative interpretation of the Book of Exodus is so cool. The music is absolutely fire, and I occasionally just listen to Deliver Us because it's so good. The character development of Moses, seeing the 10 plagues, the conflict between him and his
Now I have watched Prince of Egypt, by the way, so don't whack me in the don't whack me chat. I love that movie, but it's somewhat a bit unbiblical. You could say they make a lot of creative. Oh goodness, I'm so cooked today. Far out. They make a lot of creative changes to it. There's a word I'm looking for, but I'm just a bit cooked right now. Far out.
his brother Ramses. It all joins together to form a near perfect movie. I'm not sure any movie can be perfect, but this one is a close second. A tier. Narnia, the 20,000,
Oh, good stuff.
What am I saying? The 2005 series. The Narnia series is close to my heart, except the BBC series. We don't talk about that one. My apologies to anyone who likes that edition. I have childhood nightmares from some of the puppets and CGI used in that
No,
movie.
that's a bit insane. Far out.
But what I really like about these Narnia movies, not to mention the books, which are amazing, is that the characters are relatable and act how someone would actually react to something fantastical like a magic.
No, ultimately, right. I think that I'm sure he'll get to this, but Narnia is also really cool because like C.S. Lewis was like, nope, the lion is definitely the lion's Jesus. The lion's basically Jesus. That's the lion is Jesus. The witch is Satan. That's like the BBC series was a core childhood memory. Goodness gracious me. I'm going to need to see that. Creative liberties. That's what I was looking for. Sorry. I'm so cooked. Thank you, Christian Sapp. Far out. That's all it is. And I also like the visual effects for the Narnia series was pretty cool. So there it is.
Wardrobe that leads you to a fantasy world with animals that can speak. I really enjoy the fantastical elements of this fantasy world that C.S. Lewis created. It's full of life and wonder, and you can't help but be pulled along with the characters on this journey. Now, I know these movies aren't perfect, There have been some disputes among fans of the books as to the accuracy of this series, but I do nonetheless appreciate the inspiration that was behind these movies. You can't miss the subtle and overt biblical themes and principles in here, such as loyalty, faithfulness, courage, and so on. Aslan is an amazing Christ-like figure in this series, with a stone table and literal sacrificial substitution to mirror Christ's cross and his sacrifice to take the punishment we deserve.
Yep. And that's why it's like I think for I saw some I haven't seen Case for Christ. So yeah. Hey, thank you for joining us, Shulchan, though. I think when I read why C.S. Lewis, I listened to it. This was part of a sermon, but why C.S. Lewis wrote the Narnia series. He wanted to make it like relatable to a child, like to simplify the gospel enough for a child to understand it, and then to look to the greater hope that was Christ. And I think when I first heard that about C.S. Lewis, I was like, you know what, that's absolutely based. I love that. A guy that C.S. Lewis really did, like, he made an effort to do that, and that was like a intentional effort for him to put the gospel and simplify it for a child, that they would be able to understand it through a story, through a fairy tale, and then that they would ultimately look to Christ as well. So that's all it is. In Narnia, Aslan is not just clearly an allegory for Jesus. He literally canonically is. And Jesus within canonically is Jesus within the Narnia continuity. He's the same person who just represents differently in the Narnia world. So a really good Christ type figure. So yeah.
Amazing series. Whether you love this version or the one that shall not be named, the books are great and the themes are intriguing for anyone who loves the fantasy genre.
Yep.
A tier. Okay, the final movie on our list. Machine Gun Preacher.
Machine Gun Preacher. I wish he covered Father Stew in this as well, but yeah, it is what it is.
And this has some things I like and don't like. As with most of the movies on this list, starting with the positive, this movie has a banger opening. You can immediately tell and get a sense for where this movie is heading. The opening shot perfectly sets the tone for this rough and rugged story. From what you see of the main character, Sam, you immediately understand this man is lost, mentally, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. This brings me to one of my first critiques of this film, which is the shot after the opening shot, where Sam comes out of jail to greet his wife. And in the next scene, they're having a good old time in the car.
Oh, it's over.
The camera...
It's so over at that point. You know what? One of my main problems with Western movies, which is why I watch anime, right? Because anime doesn't, anime has like pretty bad, some anime has pretty bad fan service, but at least they don't have sex scenes, right? Unlike in some like really mainstream movies. So yeah.
Now the camera is positioned.
10 Commandments. I have watched bits of it. Like I remember watching it as a young kid, but I haven't rewatched it since then. So yeah.
Far away, and you can only see their silhouette in the vehicle. But I was still...
Yeah, Sex and Marriage is good, but it's just like to have it like shown in the cinema. I think like I don't want to see you having sex with your wife. So that's all it is. I don't know about the visual novels. It's so over.
A bit weirded out by that, so I'm docking a point. Okay, now something that is close to my heart: the protection of children. The main premise of this film is about a broken man who comes to find Christ and uses his aggressive tendencies to protect and defend homeless children from rebels in Sudan.
Romantic love is best shown not through sex, but with non-verbal communication. And I think this is why I prefer anime as well, because in an anime where it's like a romance anime and they're like being very intimate, they're being physically intimate with each other, I think it's like, I find it very uncomfortable for like, I think it's such a weird thing in a movie when the characters are in a romantic relationship, but the actors are not. Like if the characters are in a romantic relationship and they're being like being very intimate with each other, I think it's just like, it's such a, there's such a visceral reaction for me, which is, yes, I know, like there unless it's in hentai, which is like you shouldn't be watching hentai in the first place. That's all. It's a different genre. So yeah, that's kind of my I listened to Mike Winger a bit on this, but yeah, that's what one of the odd things about it, right? Which is like if we have this, if the actors aren't romantic, don't have a romantic relationship in real life, but they're being very intimate, I feel very uncomfortable with that, which is why I prefer anime, because at least they're not actually, they're just doing it through voice acting, and they're not like doing it through they're not actually being physically intimate. So We'd love to know what Podcast Son's thoughts on the anime Real Girl. Let's take a gander at that. Real Girl? I feel like I've seen this. No, I have not. Right. No, I have not seen this. Well, there's a 6.86 on my anime list, so I wouldn't, I'm probably not going to consider it. So there you go.
Down. Anything about a family man protecting his kids or the well-being of others, you got me hooked. This man is awesome. And
I
he's
live to
protecting
see
his
anime characters / couples hug or display some sort of affection, for real, for real.
kids and showing no mercy against the rebels who have destroyed, raped, and killed many women and children. This movie is based on a true story, by the way. Sam has to learn not only how to channel his rage in a righteous way, and you can do it. Even God has righteous fury. But Sam has to learn how to let go of his hatred for himself and others by extension. Amazing.
Yeah, I only want 2D girls. Why would I have a real one? You're so true, Lego boy. That's such a real, you're so real for that.
This movie is great. It has some drawbacks, like some of the overtop dialogue in the scene that I mentioned earlier. All that to say, I'm going to place this in a low A tier. Okay, now for the part you've been waiting for. This next section is dedicated solely to addressing some misconceptions and strongly opinionated comments from my previous video.
Okay, I think we missed a bit of, you know what? It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. We got his idea right. He's made his point. Like, he's pointed out some of the good Christian movies and why they're good and the reasons why they're good, and some of the bad Christian movies and why they're actually not so great. So I think he got his point across. And he's pointed out to the good Christian movies, which are why the movies which Christians should be emulating rather than some of the Hallmark films. So yeah, rather than just preaching, a sermon in the form of a movie is not a movie at all. Metric Lost Kiddo. I don't want to hear that song ever again, unless Nimi Nightmare sings it, which is in a karaoke, which is I'll be happy to listen to that.
First up on the list, we have Bob Polo 2964, who said, God doesn't have our aesthetic preferences. He loves our bad movies. They have their own.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't love our bad movies. It's just, I think it's just, oh my goodness.
Saying these movies do the kingdom of God no help puts you in God's mind. How do you know what he thinks about the films made by his other children?
Again, like, I think you're just as, if we were to use the same standard that you're saying, right? Like, oh, hey, you're putting words in God's mouth. Well, you're putting words in God's mouth by saying that as well. Like, if we were to use your same standard, oh my goodness, bad movies are good because God has no taste. Does it take, my brother? For real, for real. This is just, you know what? Like, wait. There's that. Let's get the thing from a messenger of truth. Let's replay what a messenger of truth said about anime, and because this is so zest. Let's hear this.
Watching anime is an act of worship to God. That's quite the opener.
Watching anime is more an act of worship to God than watching a bad Christian movie. Goodness gracious me. Goodness gracious me. All right.
End quote. The answer is quite simple. As Christians, we are called to work with excellence.
For real, for real.
Ephesians 9:10 says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Again, if we look to Genesis, when God created the heavens and earth, he did so with excellence. So to say that God enjoys our bad movies is a nonsensical statement, since God himself works with excellence.
That's so true. That's so true. And like, if you're, for example, let's apply this to the same standard, like a charity doing work, but they're doing it badly, right? Let's say they were trying to build a well in Africa, and then they built a well that was really, really trash and only worked like 50% of the time. Would God be happy with that? No, God wouldn't be happy with that, right? There's so many stories in the Old Testament where God demanded perfection, especially with the handling of like the tabernacle, right? Like, there's a reason, like, God wants us to be excellent. Like, he is desiring excellence from us, which is why, like, he's desiring good things for us to be, for us to make good things, right? So yeah, that's for a take to be like, oh hey, God likes our bad Christian movies. No, I don't think he does. I don't think he does. God obviously has aesthetic standards. Oholab and Bezalel in the Old Testament, excellence was a chief qualification, for real, for real. Okay, how's watching Azumanga Daioh more pleasing to God than watching The Chosen? It's because Azumanga Daioh is a celebration of beauty and cuteness, and it's cute anime girls, right? So there you go. Like that's the reason why. Like I think God would want you to watch an ideal of what a world with high school girls living in a safe place, right? It's a celebration of that. Unlike The Chosen, which has like embellishments on which adds stuff to God's word, right? That's ultimately all it is. So, Chosen Bro's response, yeah, like The Chosen does add stuff to it, and it was made by Mormons as well. So again, I'm not knocking on The Chosen, but like unironically, Azumanga Daioh celebrates Christ more than The Chosen does. The weirdo teacher in Azumanga, there's a weirdo teacher in Azumanga Daioh. Okay, maybe I shouldn't speak on Azumanga Daioh because I haven't watched it. So there you go. Even the Pascal's wager is a better argument than this. You're more a lunatic than I am. Ooh, well, I'm happy with it. K-On! Is the ideal environment to your future daughter and her friends. Yeah, sorry. I will say I'm more willing to defend something like K-On! Than Azumanga Daioh. So there you go.
And enjoys and exhorts his children to work with excellence. Again, Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. We're to work at our passions, our calling, our chores, and our relationships with all our hearts, working for the Lord. The ESV translation says, work heartily as for the Lord and not.
K-On! Also has a weirdo teacher. No, I wouldn't say the K-On! Teacher is that as weird. So there you go. So yeah, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. So we're all working to glorify God ultimately.
For men. So to really hammer this home, I want to address where this commenter says God doesn't have our aesthetic preferences, when he very specifically in Exodus directed the Israelites to make beautiful and ornate garments and furniture for his temple. Yep. And guess what? They were pleasing to the eye because God appreciates and commands.
So true. So true. Amen, brother. Amen.
Excellence. Okay.
Yes, all of Makoto Shinkai's movies are Christian animes, except the one with Agartha in it. But other than that, they're all Christian animes.
Next comment. Calvino Sinclair says, I appreciate bad Christian movies because they are what sparked my path to atheism. I hope they persist and do
That's insane.
Do the same for others. Okay, if this comment wasn't clear, I don't know what is. It is Christian films like God's Not Dead that has, as this man put it, sparked his path and many others to atheism. This is not good. How are we supposed to be building others up in the fear and admonition of the Lord, spreading his truth and making good art if we are known for and are primarily...
Hey, look, if it's any indication, right? Like, genuinely, my video on Bocce the Rock, how Bocce the Rock led me closer to Christ, and the other one, which is like how Clanad led me closer to Christ, which is coming out in May. Members are able to access it though, for the Oomphy Loyalist membership. If those videos are any indication, like that, yeah, anime, like something like anime, which is not explicitly Christian, can still lead you closer to Christ, because God can work through anything. So there you go. What's the not Christian Shinkai anime movie? It's the Children Who Chase Lost Voices. That's it. I think that's the only one which is like, okay. I did rewatch it recently though, and it's not so bad. I did judge it too harshly in my original watching, but it's not so bad. So
making bad films. This is a critical issue that Christian artists need to wrestle with. How do you mean to promote biblical principles if you're too busy making your movies and stories pseudo-sermons? Not that strong language and messages don't have their place, but it's something to think about. Now, this next commenter, I don't know how to pronounce his name, says, I hate to break it to you, but Christianity is just out of creative juice.
No. That's a load of garbage. That's a load of twaddle is what it is.
The religion is without spiritual or artistic potency these days. Christian music suffers from the exact same problems. As long as the focus is propagation of religion and proselytizing and not true art, this won't change. And Christianity simply cannot do without propagating and proselytizing. I'll quickly address the latter half of this comment. I would agree that as long as the focus is pushing a pointed message in front of as many moviegoers as possible, this won't change.
Yep.
But the good news is that it will and is changing. Yep. Most of the films I've had in this list so far have been part of that change. and Christians will continue to make films like these. We will have more sci-fi, fantasy, drama, and action with biblical themes as the foundation for the moral standards in these films. I truly believe that, and as a storyteller and filmmaker myself, I will do my best to emulate that in my own writings. As to the lack of creativity...
Good. That's based. That's the based. And again, like, I think it's... I want to address this point as well, because I think a lot of Christian creatives were told you should work in the church and you should use your skills to join the worship ministry or join like join the church's media team or do all of these sorts of things. When instead, I think a lot of Christian creatives needed to go outside of the church and go out into the culture and actually make the culture out there. So I think that's one of the problems of Christian creatives, not actually, like, there is creative juice, like Christianity still has creative juice, as indicated by how much like Hillsong is popping off, or Elevation Music. Like Hillsong and Elevation Church aren't the most amazing churches in the world, but you can't deny that they have amazing media teams on board there, which is why it's like, that's the solution. These Christian creatives need to go out, just go beyond the church and actually go and engage with culture. Like, they need to join studios and they need to be video editors elsewhere and not just within the church. So that's all it is.
This commenter seems to be implying there are two problems with that. One is that we mirror the creator, who's the master craftsman. One look around at the world, the animals, the intricacy of the human body, the landscapes of Iceland and Europe and the world, and you can see clear evidence of a masterful and creative being at work. The heavens declare God's handiwork. Second, Christians in history past have been at the forefront of many cultural and creative endeavors. Take Michelangelo, for instance.
Oh, I was right. Michelangelo was a Christian. Good.
Created beautiful ceiling artworks and sculptures that are still celebrated and admired hundreds of years later. In Europe, I've personally visited many beautiful and jaw-dropping cathedrals, which are so obviously made with passion and excellence for our God. And then we have the films that we discussed today.
For real.
So the myth that Christians can't create good art is just that, a myth. This last comment is long, but I want to hone in on his initial statement and presupposition. Haru Anderson says, I understand what you're saying, but the idea that if storytelling is there and you have Christian intentions, it will naturally be a story that exalts God is simply untrue.
No, that's because it's good, it is worship to God, right? Creating good art is worship to God. That's all it is.
I probably sound like a broken record since I've addressed this so many times in this video so far. But the truth is that your intention behind a project will show through in the end product. The writers and producers in Hollywood have intended for the LGBTQ pandering and diversity preaching to be the main thesis of all their movies. So that's what's been in their end products. Christians who make excellent art will naturally reflect biblical principles even though they're not overt. The reason why is that good art is Christian art. Think of it like this. God, the creator of the universe, created beautiful landscapes, vast oceans full of diverse wildlife, and the amazing systems of neurons and muscles and the computing power of the brain in humans. We are made in the image of God, which means we have the same innate desire to create and see beautiful art. This means that as Christians, if we simply create good art, God's handiwork and truth will be displayed through our good works. I know this is a heavy topic and has so many nuances, but it's so important for this age since the media is chock full of horrible movies and art. And we as kingdom-oriented Christians need to be doing something about it. If there was any topic you think I missed, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below.
That's so based, so zaced. What a cool guy. Is there 2 minutes left of this video? You know what? I'm happy to stop that there. What a cool guy. I like that guy. What a base guy. I'm gonna subscribe to that as well. What a cool guy. Wait, let's write a comment. Let's write a nice comment as well. You're such a cool guy. Really enjoyed this video. And appreciate that someone like you and appreciate that someone like you is able to have a platform like this. Make Christian art great again. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. All right, I'm happy with that. Let's comment that. Like, go watch this video as well in full. Of course, I skipped a massive portion of it because I didn't want to react to all of it. But yeah, I'm happy with this guy. This is such a cool guy. I really appreciate him. So that's good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Momonga For real, for real. All right, I hope you all have a blessed rest of your day, everyone. Take care of yourselves wherever you are in the world. For our American friends, have a lovely rest of your evening. For those of you on this side of the time zone, I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. See ya, see ya. Take care, everyone. God bless, God bless.